Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the meeting to order. Vice Mayor Kaplan, Councilmember De La Cruz,
Here.
Councilmember Gross,
Here.
Mayor Lindsay,
Here.
Councilmember McCormick,
Here.
Councilmember Moss,
Here.
Councilmember Petros.
Here.
Unfortunately, Pastor Eastling will not be providing us today with an invocation. Next item, if we can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure. Mr. Moss, please lead.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yes, it is.
Next item, brief comments by council.
Sure. Welcome back, everyone, from spring break. I hope everyone had a good respite and a couple of good vacations. I want to thank Allison McCormick for going to Day Days this year. I think she got a lot out of it and did a lot of good work for the village. Thank you very much. I know you're trying to debrief, and I'm trying to debrief with our council members on the issues that were addressed. And we've got a couple that we need to get to who are back from vacation. We look forward to meeting with everyone. Last thing for me is happy birthday, Frank Kaplan.
Yes. Happy birthday. That's nice. Yes.
We're all wishing you the best, and we are, while we miss you, we're glad you're taking the day off to enjoy with your family. Any other comments? No. We're good. Our next item is public comments. Our first speaker is Juan Mercenari. Please come to the podium. Announce your name and address, please.
Yes. My name is Juan Carlos Mercenari. I've been living here for 13 years now in Key Biscayne, since we moved from Mexico.
You have to give them your address.
Oh, it's 270 Gold Road in 270 Island Drive.
Thank you.
Here in Key Biscayne. My issue is very simple. My daughter is a straight A student since she was in first grade right here in Key Biscayne Public School. And she applied to Master Academy for sixth grade, and she couldn't enter. She has done everything that she was asked for. She has all A's in every subject. She just missed 3 days at school. 2 of them was because she was sick. And I just want to see what we can do, if there's anything that you can help me with so that she can enter She did, they've told us that she's in the waiting list, but we don't even know what number she's in. No one can tell us what number she's in the waiting list. So, I mean, it's a stressful situation for her, for my wife, as you might know. And I mean, I just want to know if there's something that you guys can help me with.
Do you want to add this as a discussion item, or do you want to discuss it? What do you want to do?
Can he reach out to me, or?
He could reach out to, yes, please, reach out to Allison,
Okay.
to the manager.
Okay.
We have your contact information.
Okay.
We're working on this, and we are working on it.
Okay. So
And my contact information is on the website of the village, or I can.
Should I just give you a call, or?
That's fine.
So,
Yeah.
and just for clarification, your daughter's going into 6th grade, right? So it's an entry point.
And
It's an
she was
entry point.
waitlisted.
And
And
she
she was
was
waitlisted.
right.
We're all very concerned. We are addressing it, and okay? Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eduardo Von Simpson.
Good evening. My name is Eduardo Von Simpson, 749 Ridgewood Road. I'm here to speak about the condition of the village green, if we can call that green. I lived here for 25 years, and I've never seen it in such a bad condition. It is an embarrassment for the image of the village, as well as an unsafe place for sports. I think you're going to discuss this issue 11D3 tonight. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but this sand lot is very prone for injuries, and it affects many of the sports programs currently held. A year and a half ago, or 2 years, when I think the council had this discussion as well, Mayor Lindsay said that the decision was not about money. The money was not the issue. Then I would like to ask the council, what is the issue now? Because apparently it was approved, and we are like 2 years after that so-called approval, and nothing has been done. I think that many tries have been done to fix the problem, even hiring consultants from the Northeast, which had the brilliant idea of putting sand before the grass, and this is the outcome that we have now. So I was wondering who supervised that job, who was responsible for that, and I hope that the village got something back of what they paid. Being a taxpayer, I think that we owe an explanation about that. And I also wonder what would happen if that same decision or that same issue happened on a private place. What would happen to that person that decided on that? Now, apparently, what we've been heard of conversations with Todd and the village is that a golf consultant was hired to give us advice on what to do. Golf? My understanding is that we're not going to be playing golf. We're going to be playing soccer, football, rugby, baseball. So I don't understand that. My question is, why don't we ask for professional advice to the Marlins, the Dolphins, FIU, University of Miami, FAU? I mean, we have, crossing the bridge, a lot of people that probably had the issue. And I think that the next big issue or the item or the hidden elephant is injuries that might cause the turf versus grass. I've been reading a lot lately, and of what I heard, the results are not very conclusive because you have to specify whether you're talking about football, American football, soccer, or other sports. But fourth generation turf or artificial turf, injuries or many reports are the same as the ones that occur in grass. So I would like to know from a user, parent of children that play sports here in the Key, what needs to be done for this to finalize and have something decent to play. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Marcelo Radice.
Good evening, Council, Mayor Lindsay. My name is Marcelo Radice. I live in 42 Samana Drive. I was a longtime resident here. I'd just like to speak briefly about item D3, which is the issue coming before you tonight about the approval of the engineering firm for the to move forward with the synthetic turf fields. Currently the president of the Key Biscayne Soccer Club and the entity that manages the program for the Key. I've been a father who's had a child play through and use our fields for the past 20 years. I echo some of the sentiments from Mr. Von Simpson with respect to the way that each year, because of the heavy use of our fields, they never make it through a season, and we end up having a sand lot around this time of year and into the last couple months of the year because of the use. And unfortunately, because of the lack of green space, these are the only fields that we have, and they get a lot of use. I think this day has finally come where we have to move forward with synthetic turf fields because they offer a great solution in terms of low maintenance for the village. And if you look at the other options out there, although I would love to see us continue with grass fields, natural turf fields, and some old school and like playing on nice green fields, the reality is they just can't withstand the use So I hope tonight you move forward with this firm. You contract them to fast-track this project. It's, I think, long overdue. When you look at the 3 cycles that I've seen since I've been running the club since 2000, I think we've returfed the fields 3 times. It's probably spending close to $600,000 to $800,000. So we're already matching close to what it would have cost to turf this field, and this is what we have at the end of the day. We've got a sand lot. So moving forward, I hope that you all see the benefits of moving with a synthetic turf solution, because I don't see any relief coming in the future with respect to having other field sites, at least in the short term, 2 to 3 years. So I hope you all vote for it and move forward with this project, and we can break ground this summer and have synthetic turf fields by September this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michelle Estevez.
Good evening, Michelle Estevez, 798 Crandon Boulevard. I'm here in support of the ordinance first reading for related to use of plastic bags. I'm sure it's going to pass, but I'm here to offer a group of citizens and a committee that we will help that educate residents and not to use the plastic bags. I already have businesses that they have the bags ready to start to be distributed. We have a plan in which we are going to ask the business volunteer to not to use the plastic bags, the one that use it now. So my reason to be here is that your ordinance that will pass tonight, I'm sure it will. We have a lot of people that will volunteer, and we are behind you, and we want to make sure that the ordinance that will pass will not be in vain. We're going to make sure that Key Biscayne will have the minimum use of plastic bags and educate people, because it's not only the reason that the plastic bags can be used to put the recycling materials. The plastic bags, they are not recyclable. All they do is they do more damage and cost more money for the company to recycle these bags, and they really damage their equipment. So we're going to comprehend a lot of the recycling with the use of the plastic bags. So I have already business that they have the plastic bags, and I would ask to distribute around, so you can start giving the example. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And I do want to let all our residents know and our council members that Winn-Dixie will be giving out free recyclable bags this Friday in honor of Earth Day. This was an initiative that was organized by our residents because of their commitment to using recyclable bags. So thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Winn-Dixie, and thank you to all the residents that are trying to get this initiative executed. Next speaker, Anna Brisky. Brisky.
Hi, my name is Anna Brisky. I live at 765 Crandon Boulevard, apartment 501. The reason why I'm here today is to talk about the fields. I've been living in the Key for 8 years. I have 4 children. They all play soccer, rugby, and field hockey. And the state of the fields, as everyone can see, are not really very good. So I hope there will be a solution. I was thinking now while I was sitting there that I think around this time last year, we came to a meeting in which it was said that what was needed to maintain these fields, that the decision of having a real grass field was made, knowing that there will be high maintenance costs and lots of labor from people, but I haven't seen that happening because the state of the fields are really very, very bad. So in a way, I'm here to support, like, let's try to put turf or to put something that will be well maintained and that where we will all be able to profit from sports. I have a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old. I want them on the field. I don't want them running around Key Biscayne. I don't want them hanging out on the CBS at 12 p.m., so at 12 a.m. So having them on the field, in a way, guarantees me that tomorrow morning they will be playing soccer or field hockey or something here or somewhere else on the island, but they need to train for that. So I hope you guys do something about that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Yvette Fernandez.
My name's Yvette Fernandez, 575 Crandon Boulevard, and I'm here to support the Line Bike for the community sharing program that we would like to implement on Key Biscayne. The reason for Line Bike would be it's a risk-free opportunity for the village to implement this community bike sharing program because it doesn't cost the village anything, and it's very affordable for all residents, being $1 for like a 30-minute ride. And bikes are accessible all throughout Key Biscayne, not just at the stations. So, and it should motivate residents to become more active, use the bikes, and hence helping the transportation issue or the traffic issue we have on Key Biscayne. The other thing I wanted to mention, just the 530 Crandon, I hope we can make a decision tonight or soon, and let's try, to make it an active and passive park as well. But a combination would be nice for all. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Lauri Ibarra.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lauri Ibarra. I live on 482 Fernwood Road. I'm also here to agree with the bike sharing program. The Line Bike, I think it's a great chance for us and a more useful way for the Key, and also to move forward with especially our skateboarding park. Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Alfonso Cuesta. Can you? I'm sorry, I couldn't read your handwriting.
Canta la piedra.
Oh, okay.
How dare you?
My apologies. Okay. Take a look at this.
So Alfonso Canta la Piedra, I live on 412 Warren Lane, and I'm here to talk about the athletic fields. I'm the father of 3 boys. 2 of them are in Key Biscayne soccer. The other one just loves to run around. I was here around a year ago talking about the same issue. I've been a resident of Key Biscayne for 6 years now, so I've been over 3 resoddings of the field. And again, so I can talk on 2 different aspects. One, on the soccer aspect, it is embarrassing for us to host other teams and see our fields and see what they are. Also for our own coaches, they have to walk around the sand that we basically have on our fields and trying to train our teams. And then on the other hand, my other son and my other kids that just like to run around, fly a kite, they can't even do it without falling down to the floor because they run around into a sand hole that is in the middle of the field. So again, I applaud the efforts that have been done in order to have natural grass. I love natural grass. I've played all my life in natural grass, but that is just not the reality that we face in Key Biscayne. So in order for our children to have a safe environment, I think at this point we need to go into the synthetic option. Again, I've been here, I was here a year ago as well, and nothing has improved. A year ago, I talked about my kids going into Thanksgiving break as well as Christmas break, and the police having to kick them out of the field because we were playing on the field when it was supposed to rest. And that is not a good message to be sending to our kids. We're supposed to be telling our kids they can go out and be active and play and run around and exercise, not sit around at home and play a video game because the grass needs to rest. That's my message. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cantalapiedra. Julia Walsh.
Good evening. Thank you. I live at 570 Hampton Lane. I've been a resident of Key Biscayne for many years. I have 3 children, all of which have played soccer, the soccer club here. My older boy now goes to Mast, and he played soccer for Mast. And Mast has artificial turf. And I don't know, you guys are focusing on, I just wanted to give some information just for you to think about and consider, and I know you'll make the best decision. But artificial turf in our climate is not probably, in my opinion, the best option. When it heats up, it raises the temperature of the field and it off-gases chemicals that have been linked with cancer. I have an article here, and I can give you the information, and you guys can read it at your leisure, from the Journal of the National Cancer Institute that talks about soccer goalies, professionals, and things that they've come down with that they've linked to that. So you can do your own research on that. But I just wanted to mention that because I haven't heard anyone mention that. Also, what the turf is made out of. I know there's different compositions for the turf, but if it's the black turf that causes black spotting on the players that gets on them, it's made out of questionable materials, which I would love for you to check into and research about. And it would be great if there's a solution to make the field look presentable, but if it's going to be at the cost of causing some kind of disease long-term, or even with the injuries, I've read articles about the turf causing more injuries than regular grass and leaving people that are scraped or cut open to more staph infections, more types of infectious diseases than, say, regular grass. And I just wanted to mention that so you could look into that when you're making your decision, because I know we tend to focus on cost and resolution and solutions, but we also have to put that factor into it because these are children mostly, and they're at a time in their life where that's very important. And if we just don't even pay attention to that, and then 5 years it comes out, oh, guess what, artificial turf has been found linked to whatever, and we've spent lots and lots of money on that, it's going to be real hard to go back. And you can just go to Mast Academy when they're holding the soccer tryouts and sit on that turf. The heat that is coming out of there and the way it smells, yourself, just intuitively as a person, you're not going to like it. So I invite you to walk barefoot on artificial turf and maybe think of it from a different perspective, because it might be a viable solution in terms of aesthetics and long-lasting and all of that. And I know you guys every year are trying to get a solution for the grass, and I'm sure it's very challenging, but we just have to make sure that the solution that you come up with is not going to, in the long run, be worse off for us. Okay? Thank you. And if you need the website or the information, just let me know.
Thank you very much. Nereya Carballo.
Hi, my name is Nereya Carballo. I live in 181 Crandon Boulevard, apartment 105. I've been a resident of Key Biscayne for the last 9 years. And I'm also here because I'm very concerned about the athletic fields. I have 3 sons, same as Alfonso. And I think it's full of holes. It's in very bad condition. It causes injuries. I myself do boot camp in the mornings, and I find myself running, skipping the holes in the field. So I don't know what the solution is. I can see what she said about the heat in the turf, and I don't know if it could be very harmful, as she's saying, but we need a better solution. We need to do something because we need to keep our youth active. And I mean, the village green is the best thing I think we have in Key Biscayne, so we need to keep everybody active, all the community active. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I have no more speakers signed up. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment, hasn't had a chance to sign up? We are closing public comments.
Next item, Madam Mayor, is agenda approval, deferrals, additions, deletions, substitutions, withdrawals.
I'd like to do a couple of, not deletions, but movements.
Okay.
To the next meeting. And I'm going to duck if anybody tries to throw something at me. The first item is 8, which deals with 530. The reason for this, and I have to give a comment, the reason for this is that we have given our consultant 100 different ideas, and he's come back to us with drawings on every one of them. Councilman Moss and I had a sunshine meeting with our Parks and Recreation Director last week for the sole purpose of talking about where this pump station and possibly the outside exercise equipment might go, whether 530 was the right place or the Village Green, and we came to the conclusion, all 3 of us, that there was ample space in the Village Green for both of these things. So that eliminates 2 of the design criteria that our consultant has brought forth. We also had some input from Todd, our Parks and Recreation Director, and his vision is that he wants to have lots and lots of public events, concerts in the park on Friday, kids' movies outside during the summer, during the weekend or during the week, lots of other concerts and outside activities. And frankly, none of the designs that we've seen really lend itself to these things because there's a lot of clutter with a lot of trees, a lot of plants, a lot of everything. So what we want to do is, and also during this meeting, Brett came up with some really good ideas that our consultant has not come forth with yet. So I want to move this, if we can, to May 9th, give Todd a chance to bring his ideas, his complete list of ideas to us to discuss what he envisions this park to be used for, give Brett the chance to bring his ideas to us to discuss what he believes and I believe are some maybe better designs for the purposes we might use the park. And I think we'll be in a better position on May 9th to talk about this.
Do we need a motion?
We need a
Probably the
At the time-
proper way
at
to
the
do it is
time-
when we get to the item, we'll just go ahead and
Time
open the
certain.
hearing and continue it to a time and date certain.
table it at
The
that
only reason I
time.
wanted to do it now, though, is because we don't want to have our consultant come here if we're going to talk about it, if we're not going to talk about it, rather, and I think the manager will have time to head him off at the pass if we decide we are going to move it to May 9th, just out of consideration for him.
I think he's already done that.
He's not en route yet.
Okay, so
Great. Okay, so we will follow up with,
Yeah. When we get to the item,
Resetting it.
I'll help you get through it.
Thank you. Okay. What other, you said you had a couple.
I did, and maybe based on what our attorney just said, I wanted to talk about item 10E, which is the artificial sod on the village green. But maybe we'll wait till that item comes up, because I think maybe we want to push that off to May 9th too. And if this isn't an appropriate time to say why, I'll talk about it then.
Let's talk about it then.
Okay,
Okay?
great.
Any more items?
That's it.
Yeah, I want to table item. $18
Okay.
for the next meeting.
Okay. Any other?
Yes.
I also-
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yes.
I would like to propose that we move an item that I think we need to, I think Brett's item was a little bit further down on the list than it should be.
17?
Talking about the task force?
Task force? 17.
Right.
So we will try to fast track it.
Well, I want to get rid of 11 since we already have plastic bags.
Was that it?
Okay, so plastic bags, we're gonna look at, right?
Yeah, we're looking at it anyway, so I'm happy to take that out.
Okay,
So if you would-
removed, 11.
Yeah, if you would bring it there, that would probably,
Would you like to replace it with Councilmember Moss's item?
Of number 7, forming an underground utilities task force, yes. Replace it,
With 11?
yes.
Got it.
Substitute that into 11.
actually, I would even prefer that it be put at number 6 and put number 6 at 11, if that's okay with everybody.
Sure. Okay. Are you done, Mr. De La Cruz?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. McCormick.
It was just 11.
Okay. Brett, you said you had some changes as well.
Yes, I was thinking about tabling item 10F for May 9th, and which is on the permitting software.
10F.
I just want more time to talk to staff.
There's some discussion that I'd like to have, if we could maybe limit it to 10 or 15 minutes and see where we go.
Short discussion of it.
Short
and then-
discussion to kind
Okay.
of put things on the table.
And I'd like to,
Instead-
yeah, that's
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
And I'd like to remove item 11A12.
11A12. Okay, removed. Discussion on opening position finance. Okay. Any other changes, deletions? Do I have a motion? Oh, Mr. Manager, I apologize.
Oh, please. I'd like to add 2 items
Yes.
to my, under village manager. I
Yes.
guess it would be One, I'd like for informational purposes to briefly discuss the document that was left at your dais this afternoon regarding the environmental survey that I was asked to conduct. And secondly, I'll just leave it at that. Just adding that item.
Okay.
Thank you. I didn't know if we had to add the item that was the resolution that was left at the dais. Will that have to be identified on? All right. So I would then move that this resolution be identified.
So let's add the resolution for police software funding
Yes, ma'am.
as 10G to provide funding and financing for the software.
Perfect. All those in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Next item is the consent agenda, which consists of items 7A, 7B, 7C, 7D, 7E, and 7F.
Do I have a motion? Second. Please call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is a building, zoning, and planning public hearing number SP26, applicant village manager, location 530 Crandon Boulevard, for a request for approval of a site plan for a park. And this hearing has been continued from the March 14, 2017 meeting.
Mayor and Council.
Yes.
This item is obviously another continuation of this item. We just need to specifically identify the date that we will hear this again so that we do not have to go out with further notification.
I say May 9th.
May 9th. Do I have a motion to?
Motion to continue to May
continue
9th.
to May 9th?
I move.
Move second.
Second. You got it. I'll be the third.
Please call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending Chapter 7, Business Regulations of the Village Code of Ordinances to include Section 7-2, Prohibition on Use of Expanded Polystyrene by Special Event Permittees, and Section 7-3, Prohibition on Sale, Use, or Distribution of Expanded Polystyrene, I can't say that word, by business within the village, providing for severability and providing for inclusion in the code and providing for an effective date.
Council members, just a point of personal privilege. Council member Gary Gross suggested that we try to put time allocations to our discussions to make sure that we are addressing all of our items as you know, having full discussions, but also pacing ourselves so that we can cover our agenda. So the suggestion of, I tried to allocate time and make sure that we, maximized what we had. I would suggest, and let's try this, ordinances each get 15 minutes. Resolutions get 10 minutes for discussion. Reports and recommendations from the council, 5 minutes. At 10 o'clock, we go to the manager's items, of which he has several, and then we go back. Does that?
When you said 15 minutes, you're saying 15 minutes for the total
For
of each ordinance?
Each.
Each person?
No, each
I was
ordinance.
gonna say, that's long.
No,
All right.
that is what we're
Each
trying to
item.
avoid.
All right. Now I was hoping so.
The whole entire item from soup
Okay.
to nuts.
I think it's a great idea, so long as there's flexibility.
Well, there is, there should be flexibility. We can also move to extend.
Right.
For discipline, just so that we really think about it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yep.
Okay.
I move on this ordinance.
Who's got a second?
Second.
So we have a current ordinance on limiting polystyrene here on the village, and this is extending it further to vendors that we have at special events and other merchants. We are currently grandfathered into what we have, correct?
Correct.
And we want to expand it now, which makes total sense, but we are preempted by the state.
Well, yes, if you only look at the state regulations, you would say, how is it that you're doing this? Because the state actually preempted this area and has issued prohibitions on local governments in enacting ordinances like this. This is here because there was some litigation over the Coral Gables ordinance, which is very similar to both the first and second one that we have this evening. And Coral Gables, at the trial level, was successful in upholding their ordinance, which, if you look at it, looks like this, but different names and a few variations. And so when that decision came down, I got a call from several of you who had been waiting to see what happened with the court case and anxious to move this thing onto our agenda. So that's the background to why both of these are here. That item has been appealed. There have been no briefings, no oral argument yet. It's been appealed to the 3rd District. So we don't know with finality that the trial court decision will be upheld. But if you wanted to proceed at this point, there is some support from the courts that would allow you to do that.
Fair enough. Mr. De La Cruz?
Well, I was one of the ones that called Steve about this because I've really been wanting to go forward with this for a long time. And I actually put it on the calendar a couple meetings ago. And I am 200% in favor of these two, 100% for each one. So,
thank you for that clarification.
Now, having said that, this is my concern. I'm not looking for any more litigation, and I'm concerned about that because the appellate court hasn't ruled on the City of Coral Gables litigation, and for us to do this, it is another challenge to the state. The state may be thinking differently and thinking that they're going to win, and then they will have to. Most probably, come against us before the other cases is taken care of. And frankly, again, I want to get this the next day whenever we can. We should do it, but maybe it's a little bit too early before the City of Coral Gables case gets decided. That's my concern. And
Mr. De La Cruz, I completely share your position. I am completely committed to making sure that we can be more environmentally responsible, but I am concerned about inviting unnecessary litigation where it's already been being litigated, and litigation is easily $100,000 every time you go to court. So but I think this is very important. How do we do this? Do we do it voluntarily and defer the actual ordinance? Mr. Moss.
I understand what you brought up, and again, I'm in full support of this. But you're under the assumption that someone will litigate against us. I believe we have a very small community in the business community, and I think the business community would be the ones that we would be most worried about. But I believe that the business community is actually behind it, believe it or not. So I think that I don't see it as so much as a risk. It could happen, but I don't think it's the same as what we're talking about in Coral Gables, where where they have an enormous retail community. We have a very small one, and the Chamber of Commerce has been working in this and advocating for this, and they have been talking to a lot of the businesses and getting very good reception. And we may not have a problem. I don't know, but that's my take on it.
I just want to point out that in Coral Gables, the trade association that sued represents 7-Eleven and Publix, and I know that Winn-Dixie is being very good corporate citizens, but I don't know where they would ultimately stand on the corporate level. But I was surprised by the 7-Eleven, so I just want to put it out there.
Yeah, this may not be a local decision. In the Gables, there was a retailers association that brought the challenge and had standing to bring the challenge. So it may be that even if the local vendors are supportive of this, that they don't want to have another precedent. The industry doesn't want to have another precedent. and they could challenge it. I have no idea. I can't get in their heads or their minds, but certainly they did it once.
But I also believe that if we do this, you're going to see other municipalities continue to follow in. They're going to be less nervous about getting in, and these associations are going to have more difficulties because it's going to be a trend that they're going to have to follow. So I would rather be a leader in this than to wait till other people jump in and then we feel comfortable to get in. But that's my personal opinion.
I support the concept totally, just like I think everyone up here does. But I agree that this is a relatively new challenge in the courts. I have a suggestion. Why don't we make this a resolution and go out, reach out to all of our vendors, our restaurants, our businesses on the Key, and try to get them to voluntarily comply in the meantime. And if most of them do, then, and especially if the litigation that's currently ongoing is successful by Coral Gables, then we can convert it into an ordinance, because then we'll have compliance by most and non-compliance by a few, and the pressure will be on. This might be a more peaceful and less expensive way of easing into this.
I think that's a great solution, a great suggestion.
Just for clarification, do these ordinances ban all businesses from providing plastic bags?
Yes.
Can you? It does.
Yes.
100%.
But this one's a styrofoam.
Yeah,
One's
the
plastic and
second
one's
one is the
styrofoam.
same. Yeah, but it does the same, accomplishes the same thing.
And there are exemptions. I mean, you have if your location is making $500,000 or less, you're exempt.
You're
There's
not
certain
exempt. You have the right to ask for
an exemption.
For the exemption.
12 months
Yeah.
for the exemption.
So
Can you call the question?
Yes, actually, I guess call the question.
Roll call. Councilmember De La Cruz.
Very reluctantly, no.
Councilmember Gross.
No.
Mayor Lindsay.
Support a resolution, but an ordinance, no at this time.
Councilmember McCormick.
No.
Councilmember Moss.
Yes.
Councilmember Petros.
Yes.
The ordinance is not approved on first reading. Next item is an ordinance on first reading of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending Chapter 7, Business Regulations of the Village Code of Ordinances to include Section 7-4, Prohibition on Use of Single-Use Carry-Out Plastic Bags, and Section 7-5, Sale, Use, or Distribution of Single-Use Carry-Out Plastic Bags by retail establishments within the village, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
Before anybody makes any motions, if there is no action taken on this, then it just will go nowhere, okay? So you don't have to take any action. So if nobody moves to approve this and there's no second, the item will just by itself fail, okay?
Just don't lose the paperwork.
Madam
right.
Clerk.
So, but I do want you all to know that I hear the desire from
Resolution
Councilman Gross,
to be
and that at
calendared.
the next meeting we'll bring back a resolution which basically incorporates all of these things, but it'll be urging the retailers to do this as opposed to mandating it. Okay, and that's what we'll bring back.
So you will have that ready on
Yes,
the night?
yes.
Perfect.
We have no resolution doing that presently, do we? Because I know we've gone out and talked to.
We don't. We simply implemented what we could and imposed the obligations on our governmental persons as well as vendors that we work with. But we didn't really officially set forth a resolution urging the retailers not to do it. There was a discussion about that, and people who have been involved in this issue have gone out and spoken to the different retailers, but we don't have a formal resolution.
Yes, Ms. Petros.
Specifically, what has happened with Winn-Dixie, which really is the big driver here, and would have
Locally,
the
they're-
most impact.
Locally, they're very supportive. They are giving bags away, recyclable bags on Friday. They cannot take an affirmative stance because corporate will not allow them. to do that, because then it would impact all of Florida.
Okay.
Is there any problem with moving this and
Sure, nothing at all.
let's just
but
put
I-
this on record, right?
Sure, go ahead.
Move?
If you can move to deny the ordinance.
To deny the
Move to support the ordinance.
Support the ordinance.
He wants.
I'm sorry.
He wants to give
I
it a.
forgot
He
you were
wants
the
to give
guy.
it a try.
Yeah, okay, yes. If you want to, you can see whether you
I
can get
move.
enough support.
I move.
Okay.
I would need a second. A second.
I'll second it.
I'll do a roll call.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gross.
Before we move,
Sorry.
before we vote, if we don't approve something, is there?
There's no prohibition on bringing it back the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
So like after we do the resolution, when the court case is sewn up, we can be here
Yes.
lightning fast.
Yes, you
With
can.
bells on.
Yes, you can.
Councilmember Gross.
Being convinced that when we pass this resolution next meeting, we'll have close to 100% compliance voluntarily in the village, I'll vote no on the ordinance.
Thank you. Mayor Lindsay.
Unfortunately, I vote no for the ordinance.
Councilmember McCormick.
No.
Councilmember Moss.
I vote yes because I think we need to be leaders.
Councilmember Petros.
Yes.
Councilmember De La Cruz.
Extremely regrettably, no.
Thank you. The ordinance does not pass on first reading. Next item is an ordinance on first reading of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, repealing and replacing Chapter 10, floods relating to the village's floodplain management regulations, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, providing for transmittal, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. Actually, this ordinance, open public comment.
I'm sorry, a motion to...
Oh, do we have a motion for the floodplain ordinance?
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Public comments? Closing public comments?
Mayor,
Council
if I
members?
may?
Yes, Mr. Manager.
Regarding this ordinance, I have the acting building, zoning, and planning director with us this evening, along with the building official, to give a brief overview. And we have a support staff here also to answer any questions you may have in this first reading.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor. What you have before you the first reading of this ordinance. Staff, this comes to you as staff's recommendation. There's been a tremendous amount of work all the way up to Tallahassee by staff and experts. It's referred to as a model flood ordinance. Big picture, there's a very big picture here, and this is just one piece of it. There is a program called the National Flood Insurance Program that basically provides all properties to get insurance. And there's a community rating system. We refer to it as CRS, and we take part in that. It's a voluntary participation. Historically and currently, we have a rating of 7. That 7 provides us currently a 15% discount. Every 5 years that comes around, not much different than it does in the fire department. ISO runs that assessment, and we're expecting this summer to have that assessment. That assessment provides a rating system of points, and we get points for some things and we lose points for others. The ordinance that you have in front of you has 4 major changes to it. If you notice, there's a lot of strike-throughs on there, and it's basically been rewritten. The four changes include what we call notice of non-conversion. And what that means, if you're under what we call BFE, which is base flood elevation, you can't have an enclosed structure. And homeowners have to comply with that. That's in the ordinance. There's something called cumulative substantial improvements. If you improve greater than 50% of your structural value, you basically can't remodel. You have to start over, and you would have to comply with current codes. And the third is administrative activities, which include containing your runoff on your properties. And there's a few other items on there, such as making sure that we keep records appropriately. Those things we currently do, but we don't get credit for it. This ordinance would allow us to get credit for that. There's one change that we don't do or we don't have, and it's in relation to what they call freeboarding. It's on page 48. We have something called the base flood elevation. That is set by FEMA. We don't control that. We can be more restrictive than that, but we can't be less restrictive than that. The Florida Building Code uses FEMA's recommendations or their maps, and what is proposed in this ordinance is to do for residential, and if you don't mind, I'm going to read it just so I get it exactly right. And if you're welcome to read along with me, it's on page 48. For 1 and 2 family dwellings, they shall develop in accordance with the minimum elevation requirement of the Florida Building Code plus 1 foot. Developments other than 1 and 2 family dwellings, which is basically commercial properties and multifamily properties, all developments other than 1 and 2 family dwellings shall be developed in accordance with the minimum elevation required by the Florida Building Code plus 2 feet. Those 2 changes, those 4 changes are the changes that are before you in this ordinance. We are recommending as staff that you approve this on the first reading. We understand there's a lot of moving parts to this. I have had to get up to speed as best I can very quickly. And we would propose, and we had a conference call today with a company called AECOM with the foundation, that we have a facilitated workshop that will not only address the revision of this ordinance, but also our resiliency as a whole, and really to provide a better outlook for our flood management, which, by the way, I want to recognize our floodplain manager, which is our building official, Eugene Santiago, and we have our consultant, Alicia, here from Tetra Tech, and Mariana, who's our kind of internal consultant and our floodplain coordinator. So I ask you to pass this on first reading. I'm available for any questions, and we'll be happy to facilitate a workshop.
Sure. Now,
Very good.
Thank you
I wanna
very
change
much.
the trend here.
Thank you
Don't get
very
too used
much
to
for the history. That's exactly right. We have to address this about every 4 or 5 years. It's to protect our residents in the flood insurance. Everyone is grandfathered unless they're doing something different in their construction. It's moving forward.
If you would like, I can turn those questions over to the building official.
Eugenio, please, Mr. Santiago.
Basically, every house is grandfathered in unless you want to remodel and exceed 50% of the value of the home. It's not the value of your property, because your property includes the land, which typically is worth 5 times the value of the house here in Key Biscayne. So you have to take an appraisal based on comparative sale. Then whatever appraisal number you get, you take out the value of the land, you take out the value of any site improvement like a swimming pool or expensive gazebos, whatever, and then whatever you're left is the house, the improvement. And then you take half of that, and that's the maximum you can spend. And we keep track of that. We're very serious about it. And every month they have to submit a report of how much they spent. So we can stop it at some point if they get close to exceeding that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful. Now,
Can I
yes,
just ask,
please.
does the grandfather does not convey when the house is sold, though, right? A new policy is, or it does?
No,
The grandfathering of the structure, the right to make renovations up to 50% of the value, is tied to the property, not the person who owns it.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you please tell us what implications this will have to the zoning? And if we go up 1 foot, what does that mean to the maximum height of new homes?
I'm not a zoning person for it.
Our Bill Fair, who's basically our zoning professional, I've had great discussions with him on this topic. In addition, we've also talked with Chad, who's our resident expert at the firm, Chad Freeman. Base flood elevation, as we said, is set by FEMA. And Florida Building Code, we're saying +1. So our current zoning code is 35 feet from base flood elevation. Our ordinance, as I understand it, is now defining base flood elevation as +1. So the impact on zoning will have a new home built under this ordinance 1 foot higher
when this go effective, and I believe we're using a 90-day implementation period.
But we do have a cap on how high houses can go.
Well, the cap would be 1 foot higher than it currently is.
The question
That's what
is.
Would be, I don't think that's what he meant.
No, that's exactly
That's what he
meant.
said, yeah, it will
That
go up
you
1
would
foot.
go taller?
So it's based on your starting point. So if this was base flood here by FEMA, and the building code is saying 1 foot higher than for residential home that's currently built today, let's say, this is on May 9th, 90 days after May 9th, it goes into effect. You are 1 foot higher, your base flood elevation is 1 foot higher. And so your house is going to be 1 foot higher than a home that was built 90 days previously.
I have a question,
That's
Eric.
scary.
I have 100 questions about this, and I really don't want to ask them tonight. And if we approve this on first reading, I assume it's going to come back on May 9th for the second reading. And I wouldn't want to do that unless I was very comfortable that we could have this workshop you're talking about prior to the May 9th meeting, so that we could then have a forum for answering all of our questions, and then come back on the 9th ready to say yes or no. So can we definitely have it scheduled by then?
We are going to do absolutely everything in our power to make sure we have that scheduled. I understand because this is an ordinance and it's second reading. If we do not have that workshop, we have no problem pushing this out until we have the workshop. It's important to staff that you have all the answers, and we get input from all of the stakeholders, the owners, the developers, the designers, the architects, the engineers.
Ms. Petros?
Okay, a couple things that you explained to me before tonight that I think are important to mention. Number one, the classification, we're currently a class 7, and the scale is 1 to 10, and 1 is the best and 10 is the worst, and a coastal community could at best be a class 5. In the past, if I'm correct, we have been a class 6. We're hoping through these changes to actually improve our classification to a 6, which could further give us a discount. Keeping in mind that the reason I think you brought it forward is it's time sensitive. When this inspector comes, we need to have this in place. And so we have to be very careful that we don't take too long to make a decision.
Correct.
So that we can potentially take advantage of those savings. And there's a secondary part that, in addition, in the next few months, or maybe the next year, I don't know, but there's another classification that will come down and probably have an impact at an even greater level. So we need to think about that.
Mr. Moss, and then I'm going to try to find a date.
I would like to have a clarification of something that you said. The base flood elevation currently on a property, let's say in the middle of the homes, is about 10 feet. Are you saying that the base flood elevation is going to move up to 11 feet there? Or are you saying that we're going to make an ordinance that's still going to be 10 feet plus 1, base flood elevation plus 1?
The discussion I had with Chad today, feel free to chime in, but the ordinance is more restrictive than what base flood elevation is defined
It's the second.
by FEMA.
It's your second.
FEMA's not changing any levels right now. It's just base flood elevation,
But Florida
elevation
building
plus
code
1 from the Florida building code.
Today, they're not changing base flood elevation, as we understand.
Okay.
There is but the ordinance would, by law, make us more restrictive, so our plus 1 would be defined as base flood elevation.
So the height of the building, when we can get into this in the workshop, but that would be a policy decision. If we're still, say, base flood elevation, even though we're building the first floor 1 foot above, you can still have the height 35 feet above base flood elevation, which does not change the height. Or we can decide that it should be shifted with the plus 1. But we can work that out, I guess, in the workshop.
I know contractors and architects are very interested in this as well, and all the residents. I do think we need to have a workshop before this goes to second reading, and I am thinking Thursday, May 4th. This is so time sensitive. I don't, I'm sorry for doing this to you all.
At 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., if everybody's okay with the date.
I'm good. I'm okay.
Good. 6 or 7 folks?
6.
6 is fine with me.
I'll do whatever.
Okay. 6 p.m.
What are we going to call it?
Myra, I'm sorry, but is that enough turnaround to have, if we have this on the 4th, that we'll be able to be prepared to make a decision on
For
the
the
9th?
9th?
I mean, I would think maybe the 2nd might be a better idea to give us at least a week
Either-
from whatever comes out of this workshop.
Either that or just, can this be brought up in the June meeting and when we do the second reading then?
The concern about having it pass.
Could we
before the
postpone it
inspector
if we need to?
I think
Well, it depends on when that inspector shows up.
We can continue it, right, to June if we are not ready on it, okay.
Yes. You can continue second reading if you're not prepared to hear it.
Yeah.
Can we call it the floodplain workshop?
Yes.
That's what it's going to be? Okay.
Yes, please.
So the 2nd or the 4th?
The 4th.
Okay.
Is everyone okay with that?
At 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Madam Clerk, please call.
All those in favor for floodplain management, I'm sorry, there wasn't a motion to mayor, or were the consensus Thursday, May 4th at 6 p.m. for
Yes,
floodplain
yes.
management workshop.
Call the
And
roll call on the ordinance.
Mayor Lindsay,
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick,
Yes.
Councilmember Moss,
Yes.
Councilmember Petros,
Yes.
Councilmember De La Cruz,
Yes.
Councilmember Gross.
Yes.
The ordinance is passed on first reading. The second reading, depending on the workshop, will be on May 9th. Next item, Madam Mayor, is a motion to reconsider resolution number 2017-6, authorizing the manager to issue a work order to the Cordino Group for utility data gathering relating to the village's proposed undergrounding for utility lines within the village.
Okay, so this is the item that's been passed up a few times, and we've had a lot of discussions on this, and I think that, and especially Brett and Katie and I had a sunshine meeting with the engineers that are working up in Palm Beach, and I think it's the right thing not to enter into this particular contract until we go forward with finding the person that's going to help us with the project. Brett, you might want to add something to my discussion, but I think it's preliminary. I think that we need to allow the company that's going to help us into this project. I think we're all trying to get there, but we haven't made a decision to go with this project yet. But assuming that we do, I think that the company that's going to take us there is the one that should be in charge of this utility.
So, Mr. De La Cruz, you're suggesting that we move this task over to the consultant engineer that we use for the actual master plan and design?
Correct.
So that they do the whole service?
Correct.
And collapse it into that task, into that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I still agree with what Councilmember De La Cruz is saying from before, which I voted against this because I wanted to have the master plan
More consolidated.
consolidated with the data gathering to ensure that the data that we are gathering is in the right format, the right type of data that they need, and making sure that it's as smooth as possible for that system, for the design.
I tend to agree with that because we've said that this would be valuable even if we don't go with underground utilities, but I'm not convinced that we would be so anxious to spend $200,000 on this project if we weren't going to do undergrounding and if we were just curious as to what's underneath because maybe it'll help someday. So I agree that we should roll this into one project once we make the decision to move forward.
Now, what I would suggest is if we're collapsing it into the bigger RFP for the design and the master plan, is that we actually extend it to all of the village and not just where the utilities are, because if we're spending, whenever that time comes, $200,000 to have a vendor do the mapping for the utilities, I'd say for just a little more, we'd get the whole entire village, and it would be a very useful tool for our building and zoning. And Mr. Attorney, would we be able to offset some of that cost with building and zoning? Because there would be, it's best practice to have that mapping capacity and to consult that in making permitting decisions.
I think what you're asking me is, can you use a portion of the permit reserves that we have?
Yes.
Okay, yes. The answer is yes, so long as it's directly related to the building functions as opposed to zoning functions.
Can I ask, when you met with the people from Palm Beach, is that how they did it?
Yes.
They
Yes.
had one company doing the whole thing? Okay.
Okay. So, do we have a motion?
I have a motion.
What is the motion to reconsider? Motion to?
Well,
It's a motion to reconsider.
To deny, right?
No, it's a
Well, it
motion
says to reconsider, so I think we need a different motion.
Well, we can reconsider it and then make another motion to.
Yeah.
I don't know, I didn't hear the first motion.
To reconsider the resolution.
That's correct.
Okay, so then that's the motion.
That's it,
Right
that is
now.
the motion.
So we can call
Call the
that
question.
Call the question. Well, she needs the second.
Second.
Who was the first? Thank you. I think all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved. The next item?
No.
Well,
No, no,
now
no.
we would
The
have to
The
do.
motion,
The
the motion to
motion.
reconsider,
Consider-
that now you're done.
Right.
That vacates the prior action. You need to, you not need to do anything
Okay.
further.
Oh, okay.
Done.
That was it.
So we
You're
are.
finished.
Okay. Next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, authorizing the village manager to enter into an agreement with Ballard King and Associates for consulting services relating to the Phase 2 expansion of the community center and providing for an effective date.
Do you have a motion?
Move.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It is recommended that the Village Council authorize the village manager to enter into an agreement attached as Exhibit A with Ballard King and Associates to determine the building programming for Phase 2 of the community center expansion. The total cost of the attached services is $16,000, and the funding for this service has been allocated in the professional services consultant line item in Parks and Recreation. Ballard and Kings and Associates will assist the Village of Key Biscayne with the following aspects of the planned Phase 2 expansion of the community center: programming, design review, recreation programs and services, and an operational budget. I'm recommending that we move forward with this proposal, and Todd's here to answer any questions you may have.
I'm so very sorry. There you
Okay.
go.
Yeah, I think we couldn't have a better $16,000 spent, than to find Mr. Ballard, who has helped us before, since the beginning, in trying to determine what we need to do in order to help, with the community center. I'm very much in favor of it. I hope you all are also.
And we have such beautiful news. I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
No, I'm done.
Such beautiful new space that I think needs, we look forward to using and using efficiently, so this is perfect timing.
Right.
Council members, any other questions? We will be engaging our community, obviously. It's a survey. We'll be doing focus groups. Please get involved. Tell us what you need. Please call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved. Next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending the building, zoning, and planning fee schedule approved by resolution number 2002-45 and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank you.
Let's vote. Call the question.
I believe,
Do we have?
I'm sorry, I believe since this is a public hearing, we have to.
Oh, we have a public
Open.
hearing, okay.
Okay, let's open the public hearing on the current fee structure. It's a temporary fee structure.
I have no speakers signed up, Madam
We're
Mayor.
closing the public hearing, and just for the information for our residents who have been following this, we're codifying what the action that we took in February, but this may be subject to change based on the findings of the assessment that we requested. We've asked for our Building and Zoning Department to be studied and assessed, and a report to be brought back on best practices for fee schedules and for efficiencies. So this is to be done for now, but it may be revisited depending on the information we get. Yes, Katie?
I would ask, can the manager give us an update on what's happening with the consulting firm that we have
JRD has
hired?
reported. They met first with the acting director. They are here almost daily, and we are on schedule to have the draft report back to you before the budget workshop.
Excellent.
Because it's going to be a tool that we're going to need for the budget workshop.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And again, this is not only about the fee scheduling, but this is also about building and zoning processes.
The report will be, yes. Thank you.
One other
Yes,
quick
yes,
question. Is there any dovetailing with this new software? Does that come into play with their consulting, or is that completely aside?
I don't have an answer to that.
That's
Eric.
to be discussed and considered, and you're absolutely right.
Redmark, there's going to be a contract agreement for you here tonight. I think that the work on the fee structure will be done long before we get to implementation, and so that should be in the new permit software program once that's implemented.
If they're discussing process, though, it seems to me it would be a good idea for them to contact this vendor so that we can determine a process that would work best with the software.
They're here tonight, and I will make sure that.
Okay.
Please call the question.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved. The next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, authorizing and providing for the village to lease, purchase computer-aided dispatch, records management, software licenses, and mobile software solution for the police department in an amount not exceeding $497,343, accepting terms from City National Bank to provide financing. I'm sorry. I got caught up here. Authorizing the village manager and others to prepare and execute documents and providing for an effective date.
Moved. Second.
Thank you.
If I may, just give a quick overview. Again, the recommendation by the manager is for the village council to approve the attached resolution authorizing the lease purchase of a computer-aided dispatch, records management, software licensing, and mobile software solution for the police department. The Village of Key Biscayne Police Department is in need of a computer-aided dispatch system, record management, software licenses, and mobile software solution. This has been discussed before council by the police chief 3 times since the beginning of the year. The village anticipates closing on the financing of the vehicles for the Fire and Code Compliance Building and Zoning Public Works Department on or about April 19th. The bank has offered to include the lease purchase of this software under the master lease with closing simultaneous with the other vehicles that I just outlined. The proposal is for financing for 4 years at an interest rate of 1.53%.
So members, do we have any questions? How are you both?
Good evening, Council.
Welcome.
Mayor.
B18.
This software, there was a lot of research that went into the software to make sure, number one, that it was the best possible software for us to use. Number two, that we would be able to do the interoperability with other agencies, which is where we're going to now. This particular company has 1/3 of the police departments in the Miami-Dade County area, as well as the largest group of police departments by one vendor. So in addition to being a very viable software to replace our existing one, which we bought in 2005, it also lends itself very well to interoperability. With me is Jose Calvo, our Information Systems Administrator, and he's here also to answer any questions you may have.
Is City of Miami and Miami-Dade County in this software?
No, they're not. Their requests for proposals are still out. They have not filed them yet.
That's exactly my concern, because they're spending millions of dollars to do serious upgrades. I really want to do this, but Miami-Dade and City of Miami are the biggest stakeholders, and you may have a third, but if they're tiny, tiny police departments, I just think that's critical.
We need them to be on board.
Yeah.
Correct, but these are open systems. There's, the interchange of data is going to be there regardless of what, whether they go with this system or not. With the number of agencies already in the state of Florida, I think that they will rank at the top of the list once they put out their RFP.
When have either of them issued their RFPs?
No, not yet.
And do they have an anticipated date for the RFP?
No, the closest one I think is the Miami-Dade Police Department. I spoke with the lieutenant who's in charge of that. I know that they have hired already a consultant to assist them with our project, but they're not there yet.
And why are they doing an RFP and we're not doing an RFP?
We did a lot of research with a lot of other companies. We looked, obviously, with the first company that we have now, and then we looked at all the other ones, the major players in this industry. And we chose this particular company because of all the requirements that we have been met.
Okay, that's not the feeling that I got when we first talked about this. You know, I thought that, number one, the City of Miami and Miami-Dade County were, who are our most important partners in this thing, we're going to be going with this system. And then I thought, maybe I thought wrong, but I thought that's what it was represented to us. Maybe.
And I feel very confident still that that's the direction that
I know, but it's not necessarily. So we're spending $497,000 without an RFP, right? Which is not the way that we like to do things.
And while it may be compatible, it may not be the most efficient. I don't know, but this is, what I need to know.
I think that it will be, that it is the most efficient, the best solution for us, based on what we're currently using and based on our needs.
But isn't one of the primary benefits of this the connectivity with the Miami-Dade and Miami Police Departments to shorten the response time and coordinate better? So if that's one of the primary reasons for us doing this, I just don't, and I understand the need for the software upgrade. I just don't understand why we're not waiting to make sure that we're all going to be doing the same thing. If they go in a different direction, even though what we do now might be compatible, it may not be as compatible as if we use the same system that they're going to be using. And we're the smallest by far. So it seems to me we ought to be following their lead instead of leading them, because they're not going to follow our lead.
I don't know, other than I feel very confident that this product will do what we need, and it will have the interoperability with the other departments.
Ms. Petros and then Ms.
Can you refresh our memory as to why we are moving forward, or why you feel it's in our best interest to move forward right now as opposed to waiting, given the concerns that were raised?
Because of the aging of the system that we have, it is making it more and more difficult to be able to get the data that we need to do whatever traffic studies or traffic enforcement, things of that nature. It is a very old system, and it needs to be upgraded. I feel confident, like I said, because it's an open system that the exchange of data is like built right into it.
Is there any harm in waiting the 6 months that it may take to know what they're doing in these other municipalities and the county?
I don't know that it would be harmful to us to wait. We have a lot of pieces already from this puzzle in place already, ready to execute this portion.
What are those pieces that you already have in
The
place?
infrastructure of the network, the servers, the whole supporting mechanism for the
And would that supporting mechanism support other software too, if in fact we find out that other software is being used?
Yes, it should. Yes, it should support other software.
Ms. McCormick?
Katie asked my question.
Terrific. Please call the question.
Roll call. Councilmember De La Cruz.
I have a problem with it. I just feel like the city of Miami and Miami-Dade are such crucial partners of ours in this particular situation that we need to wait to see what they do.
May I offer a suggestion?
Yes, yes.
There's a
Mr. Mayor.
huge component of this that we're not overlooking, but I mean, the record management and the other things beyond the CAD dispatch is extremely important to what we're doing because that equipment is old. If you allow me, would you table this, and I'll bring back some additional information that may be able to overcome some of your concerns?
Yes.
Okay, so just one, I withdraw my second.
Thank you.
And then do I have a motion to table?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have to vote on the motion or the tabling?
Table.
It was.
Is it? You don't have to, okay.
Call the question.
Yeah, you have to call a question, right?
Call the
All those in favor?
Oh, okay.
Aye.
Opposed?
But if she withdrew her second.
Yeah, but there was a motion to table it. And we
Oh,
have to,
okay,
okay,
I'm sorry.
second, we have to,
All right,
okay.
yeah.
And it was
I was a little
second.
confused, but.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thought we were missing something.
Next item, Madam Mayor, is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, authorizing the village manager to issue a work order to Calvin Giordano and Associates for design criteria, professional services, and construction administration services for the artificial turf installation at the Village Green and providing for an effective date.
Do I have a motion?
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is for the artificial turf. Did you want to speak to this, Gary?
I did, but I have a question.
Yes.
I feel like this
John-
should come after something else.
Yeah, how does this tie into, if I can even read down the line,
manager.
11A?
Please allow me.
Do I have the, but
3?
would you all like
Can we
to?
consolidate it?
To move, do I have consensus to move manager's item 1? I'm sorry, manager's item 3 and consolidate it with this so that we can handle.
Yeah, but we
yes.
can't keep these gentlemen here all night.
We need to move it now.
Right.
Down.
Yeah, to address all of it, yes.
Okay.
Remember what we're doing here, please, if I may. You've already approved the installation of artificial surface on the Village Green. You have in your documents, you have the resolution that did that a year ago. What ended up happening was we ran into a bit of a glitch at that time regarding the bankruptcy that was brought to our attention at that time. Didn't change the resolution, it just postponed the date, the starting of trying to get this artificial surface put on the ground. The first item that I'm presenting to you this evening is to have the management oversight. It's already, in my opinion, you can change it, but in my opinion, we're already putting the green grass down. But we needed a company to do project management, and that's what the representatives are here for this evening. So we may not agree, but that's why this order is as it is, because one's a resolution and one's an informational report to you under my heading at 10 o'clock this evening.
So on this, you could certainly move the other item forward, which is really, it's just a report from the manager, or you could table this and wait for his report later and then come back to this. So
We move it forward?
Move it forward?
Because, yeah,
Then allow me.
I hate to say this, but I'm almost thinking I might want to move to reconsider our decision a year ago. And if I can explain, I will. And I really hate to be saying this, but the facts have changed significantly since we made this decision. Nobody wanted artificial turf. Everybody would much rather have had natural grass for the kids for the playing fields. I don't think there's any question about that. But when we made this decision a year ago, we felt like we had to make the decision because the Village Green was our primary and almost only playing field for our kids. And we didn't see much of a prospect of having any others. The situation today has changed dramatically, where we find ourselves in a position where we could, in the very near future, have an opportunity to acquire property in conjunction with both Dade County and the City of Miami in the Crandon Park, Calusa Park area, and in the where am I thinking?
Virginia
Vermont,
Key.
Thank you, Virginia Key area, which may give us an opportunity to have several additional playing fields for our kids. The primary problem with the Village Green was not the grass, it was the overuse of the grass, and we were told by all of our consultants that if we could give it an opportunity to rest and renourish itself and cut the use of it back, then the grass would be fine. But we couldn't and accommodate all of our athletic programs and all of our kids. That's why we made this decision. Once we put down this artificial turf, it's irreversible. We spent $1.3 million, and to tear it back up and reclaim the land and then try to resod it with natural grass, even if we ended up with 4 more playing fields and didn't need to do this in the first place, it would become totally impractical, and now we're stuck with artificial turf fields when we may have made a different decision knowing that we had several other additional fields for our kids to play on. Well, we don't know that right this second. We know that there's a very good opportunity, probably a much better chance than we've ever had before, in conjunction with Dade County and the City of Miami on separate types of transactions, to be in a position to have many more playing fields for our kids. And if we do, are we going to look back and say, why the hell did we put artificial turf on the Village Green? We didn't really need to do that. So I'm thinking that it may be a good idea, and I've spoken to Todd about this, to resod our fields one more time, put them into good playing condition for our kids, maintain them to the max, get through one more season, and in the event all of these things that we're looking at right now fall through, and we still need to have artificial turf, we can move forward with it. But if these things don't fall through and we end up with a lot more access to playing fields, then we're going to be, I think, very happy that we kept our Village Green green. So it's kind of crazy to be sitting here saying maybe we should change our mind yet once again, but I think we need to see how these opportunities play out before we make a decision that's totally irreversible and not everybody's preference, not most people's preference, if we had a choice, which we very well might in the very near future.
Thank you. Brett, and then Katie, please.
Yeah, I would like, Todd, are you able to come up and clarify what you have done? Because there was some public comments stating that we should be reaching out to professional teams, and I think we've done that, and I think there was some misclarification about some golf turf or something like that, which I don't think actually happened. So if you could clarify exactly what you've been doing about the maintenance side if we did go with natural turf.
You have a report.
Address the fill issue too, please, because that was misstated.
In your agenda, you have a report that was offered by 2 gentlemen. One was a golf course manager of a premier golf course, and the other manages the turf for the Miami Dolphins. So that's about as top-level turf consultant as you can get in South Florida. So we've worked with him through that process. He gave you a report that you have in your agenda, and he's continued to be helpful for us and give us information whenever requested.
And I think there was also some clarifications in the public comments about the chrome rubber, and that if we did go artificial turf, we would not be using the chrome rubber, which is actually, I believe, is being used at.
Yes.
And I think, let me take
chrome
this up.
rubber, yeah. For that is
tire.
It's crushed tire, yeah. So that is actually what is being used, I believe, at the Mast Academy, which is a completely different environment. When you're on that turf, you actually smell like you're in a place where you're buying tires, and it's horrible. So I believe that what we are looking at here is not the same type of turf. We're looking at a much higher quality and supposedly safer
Encapsulated sand is what the infill is instead of the rubber. And while we're clarifying, just so, because time has transpired, but with the help of our capable village attorneys, we did reach a settlement with the company that did do the fields and received approximately $200,000 back from them, $98,000 that we didn't pay them, and then they sent us $93,000 because of the failure of the field. So we did proactively go after them. And also, to that point, the consultants that worked with us on that project are no longer consultants for the Village of Key Biscayne. So all those points that were addressed earlier were addressed by the council and staff.
Did you have a follow-up question?
Yes. Could you briefly tell us what the downtime would be if you were resodding? I mean, one of the issues we have right now is we're not maintaining these fields at all in anticipation of a decision. And I think no matter what, even if we're holding off on ultimately pulling a trigger on artificial turf, we need to do something with these playing fields because they are in very bad shape.
We do have a very capable company maintaining them now, a company that's been doing everything from aerating. I do have our irrigation manager here who set up a system that is monitored 24/7 online. If anything breaks or we lose any pressure at any of the fields, he knows immediately, notifies me. We go out and take a look and we fix it. We have Brightview maintaining the fields. They've been aerating, if you've noticed. They've been fertilizing. They've been spraying the weeds. So we've been doing everything in our power to keep these fields at the best level we can now.
But what they need is new sod then. Is that correct? Because there are large areas with sand with no grass.
Absolutely. Yeah, it would need to be resodded.
And if we were to resod it, how long can we not use it at all? What is the downtime?
Yeah, I would say probably
Summer.
it would be the summer again. Exactly what we experienced last year. All fields would be closed for the summer as we resodded and then the growing period.
That was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago, I'm sorry. Yeah, if you recall, we had Village Green North and Village Green South closed. And for the time for the work to be done and then the grow-in would be the entire summer.
And if we did the artificial turf, the fields are also going to be down for a certain period of time. Is it the same amount of time or is it significantly less?
For the whole field will be down probably less because most of it is design, engineering, and permitting, but the whole project is 100 days. Obviously, you're discussing about field downtime. If we have turf, then we're back to closing what the other gentleman, mentioned, which is resting the fields every opportunity we get to maintain them, which is Christmas break, spring break, Thanksgiving break, shutting the fields down, not allowing groups to play in the morning that are back to playing now. But that's just for you to weigh. Those are just some of the considerations.
The irrigation for each surface, would it be the same or are they very different?
What we're looking at now is if we were to proceed with artificial turf, we have an estimate of how we'd have to redesign. And if you chose to proceed with natural grass, it's within 10% to redesign the entire system on the fields again so that we can operate the Village Green playing fields independently of the rest of the park. Right now, the system is the original system. The whole system runs by zones. It's not broken out into the playing field and the rest of the park, which would be advantageous if we could just run the playing fields because we would run that more often instead of trying to irrigate the playing fields and swamping the rest of the park.
One last question. Artificial turf and heat. This surface, is the heat less than other artificial turf surfaces?
Can I bring a representative from the company that can speak directly to that?
Good afternoon, everyone. Andrew Adams with US Green Tech. That's a great question, Ms. Petros. You will find that infill to infill with the EnviroFill that you have selected, it is about 25 degrees less hot than what you would find with the crumb rubber.
And what would it be at on a 95-degree day?
With that, I wouldn't be able to give you on just that type of day, but I could come back with you or to you with that information if you would like.
Could you compare it to natural grass?
Well, and I think one thing people have to understand when you're talking about artificial turf in the heat aspect of turf, yes, it is hotter, just like natural grass. If I walk on the asphalt back and forth, it's hotter. But with the artificial turf, because of the cool air, after about a 2-foot ratio, up to 2 feet up higher, it actually is the same ambient air is equal. So your temperature is equal from that point on, so you're not having any issues with the athlete or the child running on there, breathing and being overheated in that aspect right there. Is it hotter on the foot? Yes, it is. Absolutely. Every artificial turf is. I've been doing this for 11 years.
Who are you, sir?
I'm Steve Coleman with AstroTurf. Sorry about that. I've been doing this. I'm vice president for AstroTurf. I've been doing this for 11 years now, and I will promise you this. I've had over 90 fields in the state of Florida that I've been a part of and installed. Park and recs are the number one concern that we have because of the fact that the younger athletes and the fact that they're nonstop from every day, all day, and even when they don't have it and they got the fences shut, people still jump in the fences playing. You can't keep a grass field alive in the state of Florida based on the sports that we participate with: lacrosse, field hockey, rugby, soccer, football, nonstop. What the artificial turf does do, it gives you an opportunity to play nonstop and never have a downtime. So when you talk about the heat aspect of it, I have on all the park and the soccer organizations I've worked with and everything else, from Jacksonville to Tampa to Melbourne area, all the way here in Miami, and I have fields down in Miami. I've never had an issue with any of them saying they have to leave the park because it's too hot.
Can I clarify one thing, please?
Sure, Gary.
I'm totally convinced we made the right decision as far as what artificial turf to go with when we made that decision, and I'm not even remotely questioning that. My only question was simply one thing. If we acquire enough fields to manage the play on the village green, if it's natural, so that we can maintain it in good condition because we've relieved the stress of overuse, would we still want the village green to be artificial turf? And I think the answer is no. Therefore, I'm only suggesting that maybe we make the foolish decision of resodding the village green one more time, hoping that this good chance we have of ending up with more fields might come to fruition, and if it doesn't.
So my question is this, and Luis, I know you wanted to speak. Do you want to speak now?
No, go ahead and say what you want to say.
We have a different set of facts today than we had a year ago, and we're in a better place. But the reality is government moves really slowly. So even in a best case scenario, let's say we are 4 or 5 years out after remediation of both sites. And so the question, I think, for me is, do we invest in natural fields for the next 3, 4, 5 years, or do we act, is it more practical, and I don't know, to do artificial turf, which probably by the end of the 5 years will be the same in terms of maintenance. But my question then would be remediation. If we were in a situation, which God willing we are, where we can, we're like, we have more fields and we know what to do with, and we can really have a village green and go back to that old idyllic village concept. What's the remediation? Are we killing I've read that there are issues with the soil and that you do have to remediate. What's the expense? What's the downside of that?
Well, I will start by saying this. If you are blessed to have that other piece of property and you can put in multiple fields, I'm doing 15 fields up in Space Coast. I've got another project in Tampa. It's another 18 fields. I understand that. You're talking 3 to 4 years typically when the whole process goes through to build to get to that point. And every concept that I've ever dealt with, you're looking at that time frame, and then it goes to bid, and then it's a crazy fiasco of everything like that. So that's one aspect. Now, for artificial turf, if you're looking at the cost, once we get and put the turf in, and we come back and say, okay, we want the village green, we want the perfect thing again, can we remove it? Yes, you can remove that artificial turf. It is not going to affect any of the subsoil. It's not going to affect any aspect whatsoever that you have underneath the turf that we've installed. You can remove that, dispose of that if you want to.
Can we reuse it?
Can we roll it over and put it somewhere in your house?
Yeah. No, not my house, please, no. But on another field, could we possibly reuse it?
You can, yes, you can, but yes, you can, but we have to cut it. It's not a practical situation.
Okay.
I mean, people do buy off the turf, the used turf, and there are machinery that you can actually extract the infill out, remove it, cut the turf, roll it up, remove that. But then you have the stone base in your drainage aspect, and that's...
I'm sorry, sir, if you can stay. Thank you.
Willie Pujals, Quicksand and Fill. I work with AstroTurf and with Easy Grass. What you have right now on that field right now is pretty bad soil. What's going to go in there, it's a base that's going to hold whatever you guys decide in the near future if you want to take off the field. It's just replacing, you're having, rock that drains, it's all putting about this much worth of dirt on top of that and put your grass. That's all you have to do. Just take out the drainage aspect, which is plastic pipes, which is very simple. It's not a very complicated process. So.
And I would say this, currently what you have, and I would love for somebody, and this would be a great question for this gentleman here, to actually come up with a timetable to figure out what is allowable amount of time on a grass field in the state of Florida that's going to survive. Because there's not a single soul that I've ever come across that can figure that out, because grass fields.
3 months?
Well,
no, I'm saying once you start participating on it.
Yes.
Okay.
It's dead. You and I both know. And then you have to replace, and you have to fix, and you have to come back up. People, it's the wear and tear of the fields is enormous.
Okay, my turn.
Yes, it is your turn.
Okay, so just to give you a quick answer, what we're thinking is not to totally do away with any games at the Village Green, but maybe only have Saturdays and Sundays played there. And if we only played Saturdays and Sundays and we allowed Monday through Friday to recover, I think those fields would do fine.
Okay.
Todd, please.
Yeah, and I think, Luis, the example for that is how the fields are holding up at the school. They're not used to the same extent, but they're used.
Right.
And
they look great.
They're still green.
Yep.
Right. So which of the two fields gets the most use, or do they both get the same amount of use?
If anyone got a little bit less, it would be the north.
What if, this is just theoretically, what if we did one field? Which field would you suggest that we do to move everything to that field, and then keep the other field as the least use?
I think if you did the south field, and then what would be interesting to me is the lay-and-play sod that we talked about with the gentleman from the Dolphins. If you were to put that down on the north.
No, you're not talking about the $800,000 there.
It wouldn't be that much, because that was for all the facilities.
Okay.
Then you could have a field available this summer while we did the work on the south field.
Okay,
for
so
artificial turf, and I can give you a number for that. It would be around $150,000
that can't be. It's got to be more than that.
for the sod I'm talking about.
Okay. And that's for the north field.
That's if you resodded the north in the lay and play. So that means you can lay that down. 3 days later, the kids can use it while the project's going on the south field.
Okay, because when we spoke yesterday, I'm not sure that the figure you had given me also included St. Agnes, because we need to do St. Agnes, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So the figure that you gave me, did that include all of the fields or just?
That include the Village Green North, South, and St. Agnes.
Okay, so, all right.
And with the standard sod.
And how much activity could you remove from the north field if you did the south field?
We would obviously maximize the south field.
But what percentage of the activity could you remove?
I'd say 20% with.
So that would be like laying the field fallow 1 day a week.
Well, I think we're going to do our scheduling for the fields at the end of May. And if this is what's determined, we would work with the sports to develop a schedule that gives the north field.
It's an idea, you know what I'm saying? It's
well, in addition, one other question. Are there certain sports that are less, I'm not coming up with the right word, but that aren't as hard on the turf as others? And could we then kind of
flip it?
Do
programming.
Not necessarily flip, but program the
Programming.
less, the ones that aren't as
If you
difficult
look on
on
the
the.
weekends, it's the little kids that play on the north field. And it's the big kids that play on the south field. That's why the chance of the turf surviving on the north field is greater than the big kids playing
But
on the south.
if we shifted all the programming of the older kids to the north field, then that would change that dynamic.
Well, if the south field is artificial, we're going to try to put all the big kids on the south field. And all the higher impact sports to the south field, and then leave the little kids and the peewees playing on the north field, which is where they already play now. So it is a lower impact on the turf.
Yes,
So,
Mr. Dela Cruz.
so do you think you could put together a plan for us where we could put the easy grass on the south field, the larger field, and do the repair that you suggest for the north field and St. Agnes, and bring us back exact numbers and go with that? Is that something that you could come up with?
I mean, it doesn't take much because we did this exactly this way 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's a per square foot cost pretty much, so that's simple. We could have that for your main
And
item.
we contemplated splitting the baby before.
Given the challenges with the sand and everything, and what are your thoughts of this lay-in-place sand lasting if you are just laying it down, or is there something else that should be done like underneath it before, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for the lay-in-place side, his whole scope is to pull everything out.
Okay.
To grade it, to put a
And
soil
that's-
sand mix.
And that's built into that per square foot price.
But it's also a significant maintenance cost.
Yeah.
You got to remember that. The way that they were proposing it to us, the way that the Dolphin people were proposing it to us, it was going to cost us $500,000 to maintain.
We needed a fields person.
Right?
We needed to have,
Yeah, they were saying that you will not be able to keep it the way you want it for play unless you have a full-time groundskeeper.
Groundskeeper, yeah.
Have your own equipment, and you know it's quite a
Onerous.
project to maintain these
Yeah.
fields.
Again, what we're proposing now, maybe, is different because we would take a lot of this pressure off of the north field, the smaller field, you know, and put it on the south field. I think it's something that we really should consider because anyway, even if tomorrow we make a deal with Miami-Dade or with the city of Miami, and we start the process, it's going to be easily 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, you know, to develop fields wherever we're going, especially if it's here in Crandon. So,
And unfortunately, that's why I think we should do both fields turf, because I think the maintenance of that side, as much as I really, really prefer natural grass, I really do. I think it's unrealistic, Luis, but I will defer to you, but that's just what I'm thinking.
I'll do whatever the majority wants to do, you know.
Yes.
I just want
Yes.
to bring out one point. I understand that it's dollars. I understand that, and I
No, it's
understand.
not dollars.
Well, I understand that, but I
It's
understand.
combo.
It's not at all dollars.
Well,
Please understand.
Quality of the Central Park.
Well,
Yes.
here's what AstroTurf's belief in our theory is very simple, is the safety of the athlete. And I will tell you right now, I've been out to the field that you have out there. We are, and if you hear the parents that have come up here, that is the number one concern that AstroTurf has, is when we put a system together, it is going to be safe for every sport, a one turf concept with rugby, field hockey, soccer, football, anybody that participates on that field for injuries and aspects of that, those are the number one concern we have. The grass field that you currently have and the amount of play that you have on that, yes, what you're saying to do is absolutely correct. If you take and put all the main big kids on the artificial turf and you keep the small kids on the small, if all of a sudden something happens when an athlete gets injured on one side and not, on the natural grass from a hole or something like that, those are all things that come into play. The artificial turf is going to give you an opportunity to have something down for the next 10 years that is going to be consistent, perfect play that you never have downtime on. Never. Here, let me rephrase that. It's 1 hour every 4 weeks with a guy pulling a golf cart with brush behind it. 1 hour every 4 weeks. That's your only downtime per field. So it gives you that opportunity to have the consistent play.
Is that no matter how much use?
No matter how much use.
But
And
how can that be?
The only thing I tell people is this. If you're going to let lacrosse go out there, they destroy fields. Go out there in the big areas, lacrosse, have a little bit more maintenance on that, but it's minimal.
Explain this to me, because if you had very little use and you had a lot of use, it's got to use the field. It's got to degrade the field more.
Doesn't. No. Here's the one thing that you have to understand with artificial turf. The actual infill material, okay, the only thing that you do to maintain your field is you want to keep the infill at an even level. So you're going to pull a brush across this thing, and you're basically going to level out. So if I'm going to your soccer goal kick, your kick area, your free kick area, all right, kids kick the same spot over and over. They migrate that infield just a little bit. When you come through and groom it, all you're doing is pushing everything back in it even out. That fiber and that infill is not being destroyed. You can use, we actually prescribe you using your field for 10 hours a day, 365. We want you to use it for that much. And we don't have anything with our warranty that states that you can overuse it.
And
So-
that was my question.
There's nothing in our warranty, so you can get after it, and the safety of the athlete's there.
Yeah.
Brett and then Luis.
Okay, just, I understand what you guys are worried about is the athlete. And I understand if that's a sports complex. The problem is it's not a sports complex. So we're faced with a little bit of a different approach here because it is a park that's multi-use, used for other things than just sports, right? So we're looking at a qualitative, not just a price number, right? Or if it was only sports, yeah, then we're looking only numbers, right? So I just want to clarify that. I think that is there a motion right now to move this to the next meeting, or is there a motion for us to make a decision on whether we're using grass or synthetic turf? I'm a little confused of where we're at.
Let me just tell you where you are procedurally. We have negotiated the final terms of a contract. It is ready to be signed. The manager is telling you that unless you take some action to tell him to stop, he's going to sign that contract and move forward with the artificial turf. This item is simply to have a firm oversee the installation, peer review type action during the construction period. Okay? So if you're not going to go forward with if you tell the manager on his report item, which is I'm ready to go forward, to stop, then you don't need to take any action on item E.
And what's the motion on the floor right now?
I think the motion is to approve an agreement with Calvin Giordano.
Okay. And
For the peer review and the...
But there's no reason to hire them if you're not going to be putting down fields.
And I think that's why they wanted to combine both items. Well,
yes. My understanding what Gary brought up was that he wanted to wait till May 9th to see how something might unravel and then make the decision at that time.
If I can just clarify.
Yes, please, Gary.
Because you hit it right on the head. We're not talking about a sports complex. There are kids playing on the village green all day, all night that aren't organized sports. They're out there with their fathers, with their little friends and everything else, and they'd like to be rolling around on real grass and getting muddy. So here's my question, Todd. Let me just run this one thing by you. It's a question for you. I opened this door. I'd like to close it tonight. Can you come back to us? You said that if we make the decision by May 9th, we're within the window of time, right? Can you come back to us on May 9th and answer one question?
Sure.
And that is, if we sod the north and put turf on the south, can you schedule our organized sports in a way that will allow us to minimize the sports activities on the north field enough to fully maintain it as natural grass without the problems that we've seen up to now? And if that answer is no, then I'm going to be the first to raise my hand and say, let's do the whole thing in artificial turf. And if the answer is yes, then I'm going to like the idea of going turf on the south and grass on the north, and at least we've maintained half of the village green as a green. So can you get that information to us, be very specific, very clear about what we can and can't do by May 9th, and also include the maintenance cost if we were to put back natural grass on the north?
And I mean, my challenge is whether it's doable to do an RFP for the grass and get that all done within the next 4 months.
You won't be able to do it. It'll be a year before you have that.
A year?
Yeah, because you have to now go back with your new plan and come up with the design, the RFP, the bidding out the grass surfaces, everything else, and you know how long that takes. We got to get somebody in here, from the Dolphins or whatever, to talk to us about what it's going to take to maintain even that small portion. So and you have the growing season. You're not going to get all this done by May. This is April.
Do we really need an RFP? Couldn't the manager, if we asked him to negotiate with one of the companies that you've been talking to and get a price? And
are there many companies
we could,
that do this
but you're going to have to get an irrigation plan approved, which somebody's going to have to
There's
design.
irrigation there already.
But it's not working. Look at the field.
No, it's
We have
not
to
meant for
redesign
that.
it.
It's not meant for that, what you're about to put down.
Todd just told us it's working great. He's got a consultant, and the maintenance is fabulous.
Could it be better? Absolutely.
It could be better if we do that one switch of making it operate separately, right? And
Come back to us on the 9th with that
It's not what he
information,
said.
and we'll make a decision.
Could I say something real quick?
Yes.
As of right now, we're tight in time to have the field done with the design and permitting. If we send it back another month, it's gonna be that much tight.
Talking 2
Tighter.
weeks.
I have an idea.
No, well,
Could we authorize them to begin? If you'll notice in
The
the
engineering
design.
is what we have
Oh, yeah.
to decide today. We can
No,
decide
yeah.
that.
No.
Oh, because it's already approved.
What he just mentioned is absolutely correct. The install time period in the summer is already a tight situation. It's already calendared right now for the artificial turf, and we've already kind of put our, if it gets moved and everything but permitting gets pushed back, time frame actually gets pushed back on that aspect right there. And it's gonna make it really tough, and we'll do everything in our power to get you what you want exactly, but you do put yourself in a tough situation, because understand this, we're doing 400 fields, and every high school that wants an artificial turf wants it done from end of May to August. And that's when your time frame is right now, and now you're gonna be at May 9th, and then by the time you get this thing going, and then the permit, it's gonna push us into June, July, and at that point, you're now taking a chance of this thing not getting done until September, October.
But I think you're missing the point. We can say go. You can start on the south. We're not going to delay you one day. The only question is, do you continue on to the north? Does that make your problem go away?
Permitting is
You're
not going
doing
to
it
be
all at
delayed.
once.
Okay, well, I didn't know how y'all were gonna do this, but.
well, the only issue that we
but-
might have, and sorry, Todd,
Okay, go ahead.
is on the actual design of the drainage. I would have to talk to the engineer. Because right now, top of my head, I don't know if one mirrors or talks to the other one.
No.
From one field to
Do
the
they?
other, because we have to do all new drain structures.
Okay, so
around it.
remember that there's a dividing
Right.
thing right down the
There
middle
is.
of the village.
When
So
you're doing drainage
do
for an
they
artificial-
talk to each other? Does the north field talk to the south field,
Drainage-wise?
drainage-wise?
Sure, to a degree, but it's minor degree,
I-
very
Huh?
minor.
I think
Very
they
minor.
do. I think they do. I would have to talk to the engineer about that.
So you guys
But
tear
I'm
out
not-
the
I'm
pavement.
not
But
a
it
civil
doesn't
engineer.
matter. It doesn't matter because we're going to change that anyway.
It does. It does matter. And here it is. It's based on 100-year storm calculations. When you look at the drainage and the engineer figured it out, even though you have a small concrete area in between the fields and you have a division, they're basing the whole thing on a 100-year drainage plan. Okay, so when we're doing artificial turf, the design of that and the amount of piping and what we utilize is based on the whole square foot area, based on that calculation. So
Only the
when we
water.
have to adjust that.
Now, that doesn't make sense to me. I'm sorry.
Well, you have to adjust
I have civil engineering background.
Okay,
So
I
I mean, you
understand,
know,
but that's-
that
that's why
doesn't
I
make
have it
sense to me.
permitted.
Since,
Well,
you know,
that's the question that our engineer would have to answer.
yeah, I think you need
you
to
know-
speak to him because I don't believe that that's the case.
Council members, we've been on this item for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I know that it's critical, but just be mindful. Katie? Did you want to?
I just wanted clarification of St. Agnes. Where does that come into play here? What are we doing
Let's
there?
not talk about that now.
But that has nothing to do with
No.
this.
No.
Okay.
That's going to be maintenance, but it's not before us today. It should be before us soon
Okay, so
because
that's not involved
it
here
is
because it was
no.
mentioned and.
That's not
No,
going to
it does
be
need to be
artificial.
maintained.
That's
Got it.
resodding.
Okay.
So the current motion we have on the floor is
For the resolution.
for the resolution.
Shall I?
For
It was moved and
Giordano.
seconded.
For Giordano.
Can I ask one quick question with the resolution finally?
Yes.
How many months, again, is this construction?
The artificial turf?
Yeah.
It's based on 100 days.
How many days?
100 days.
100 days.
100 days.
100 days from permit,
Okay.
From start.
from acquiring the permit from Durham.
George Sands with Easy Rest. The thing is that we need Durham to put our permits through Durham, and it could take anywhere between 6 weeks to 8 weeks. We don't know. That really depends on Durham. So we can't start till we have a permit from Durham. And
I'm
then
sorry, can you state your name? And
George Sands.
Thank you.
Easy Grass. So we need the permit from Durham so we could start it. Then we have the 100 days from the day we get the permit.
So apply for the permit.
Well, the permit, you need the plans.
Right, and the plans call for both fields.
Right.
Okay, so,
I mean, I have to tell you guys, I totally agree with you, Gary, that I would like to see that area ultimately green. Having had a brief period of time up here, I recognize things move quite slowly, and the warranty for this artificial grass is 8 years. I think is that correct, or am I wrong?
That is correct.
Okay. And maybe it'll go 10 years, but we can feel confident that we've probably done due diligence on a financial level if it lasts 8 years. So we're really talking, say we get this land in either Virginia Key or Crandon Park, and we think it's going to take about 5 years. That means it might take 6 or 7 years. And now we're very close to the time frame. And the longer that we wait, then we're not going to have playing fields for the kids. And I think we all see it as a temporary solution. And I personally feel comfortable making a decision tonight on that
On
for
both
those
fields?
reasons.
Both fields?
Yes.
please call the question.
Roll call. Councilmember De La Cruz.
Can't you start with somebody else? I mean, the clerk gives me a break every once in a while.
Due to the fact that the vice mayor is not here, it just rotates that way. You can blame Frank. It's his birthday. Councilmember Gross.
You're a coward. I have fought as hard as I can to save a blade of grass, and I think it's time to move forward. I agree with you, Katie, so I'll vote yes.
Mayor Lindsay.
Yes.
Councilmember McCormick.
Yes.
Councilmember Moss.
No.
Councilmember Petros.
Yes.
Councilmember De La Cruz.
With a heavy, heavy, heavy heart.
Just say yes.
Yeah. Yes. I'm not happy. I really am not. I feel very sad. I feel very sad about this moment right now.
I agree.
I think we all do.
Well, I think then we all need to make a very concerted effort that this becomes a temporary solution.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And we find an alternative.
The resolution is approved. Next item, Madam Mayor, is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving Redmark Technologies LLC for the licensing, installation, and maintenance of an Acela software system for the Building, Zoning, and Planning Department, providing for a waiver of competitive bidding, authorizing the village manager to negotiate an agreement consistent with and substantially in accordance with the terms set forth in the proposal and statement of work attached as Exhibit 8-1, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Council members.
Move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Council member Moss wanted to address this and share some concerns.
Yes, so,
Very briefly.
this is something that I deal with on a daily basis, and I think that our staff are moving in the right direction, and I'm glad that they're moving in this direction. And looking into finding a software where we can expedite the permitting process for our residents and make it a much simpler process, as well making it more efficient inside our building department, zoning department, and other departments as well. It's just that the reason why that I wanted to push this over to May 9th is that I'm not 100% comfortable yet, because I don't know exactly everything about the system, and I really want to get in. I don't want to be micromanaging this in any way. I feel very confident that they're doing the right thing. I just want to know a lot more about this product. It's I think a close or around $200,000 investment, and if it works well, it will probably be a good investment that we'll make. I know that this is we've already tried a system in the past that did not work, and I am just concerned and want to make sure that I understand all the aspects. I'm able to maybe see a live demonstration of how it works on the user end, on the back end, and I think if I have that, I believe I can be up here on May 9th very happy to push it forward with the staff recommendation. And that's why I'm asking, we can do our discussion here and give them what our concerns are, and then maybe on May 9th we can move it forward for them.
Mr. Dela Cruz.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. We've been here longer, and we've heard all the discussion regarding this, and that's why I was ready to make the decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand where you're coming from, because this is something that's going to take us from now to a significant future, and is extremely important for what you do and for what I do. As a real estate attorney. So I'm ready to make a decision because I've heard them, and I've sat with them, and I've tested them, and I've sat with Judd even before, and we made a mistake with a software that we changed, and what we're really doing is going back to the software that we had before and getting an upgrade of it.
Yeah.
And they have done their research, and they have found that this is the most effective, the best software out there. So I'm ready to do it. I understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem, delaying it to May 9th so you can sit with them and get the benefit of what we've had,
That would be great.
I think it's the right way to do it.
Yes, Allison.
Is there anything that affects like this
Is there a time
purchase? Is there a reason that we can't wait?
It's a 3-week wait, basically.
No, and actually, I've discussed this with the acting director. I appreciate what Mr. Moss is bringing forth. The council member is right. I recognize that we are ready to move forward, but I would feel better as an advocate that he overlooked what we were doing and took him. It's 3 weeks, and we'll be back before you.
Great. Mr. Manager, just in terms of, so that we know, at what capacity is the current system working in terms of, are people able to obtain permits via the internet?
No.
Not at all. When will what's the implementation time of this upgrade, this new system? Do we have a time frame?
Contract before you has an implementation time of 11 months.
Okay, and given what happened before that we were all burned, and there were issues with even identifying quality controls and checks and balances. Do we internally, are we addressing this so that we are not back where we started from?
I know that we spoke. I made that clear to the staff. I made that clear to the vendor from Redmark, who is here tonight, Walter Chavez. He's the president of Redmark. And I'm crystal clear that we need to make this happen, and we need to be in touch with our constituents and the people that are pulling permits and interacting with us and get ahead of any problems.
Okay.
And Velocity Hall, I think we spoke about this before, is what we're using now, which is Excella. And we're looking at the same system, but this is going to be a much more upgraded state-of-the-art where it can do much more than what we're providing our residents right now.
Yes. To be very simple, we have a hosted system that we use, and this is cloud-based. It will have mobile applications. It's very robust in what it can do. I understand record research is part of that. It will notify you as soon as the plan has been reviewed, whether it was approved or rejected via email, text message, and it's tremendously robust. And all this should be, when we go live, my understanding is everything goes live at once.
Yep.
Yes, Mr. Dela Cruz.
Eric, I asked you this morning, is this the best system? And because from my perspective, we need the best system, second to none. And I think you said yes.
I'm saying that this comes highly recommended from staff. As you know, the only reason I'm hesitating is because I've only been here for 2 weeks and I did not go to West
all right.
and so
I'm pretty sure that's what Judd feels, but
I did, just for the record, I spoke to Judd. I spoke with the entire staff. I spoke with the IT director of the city of Weston, and I haven't heard any negative. I haven't seen any yellow flags to make me turn away from this. But we can do this where we go to Weston, or we can do a WebEx.
I'm ready to go. I want to see it firsthand. Okay. If I see it firsthand, and they convince me, I'm on board.
We should have the best system, the best.
I understand.
All right.
Do we have a motion to table?
I make a motion to table it to May 9th.
Second.
Please call the question.
All those in favor to table this item to May 9th?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item is a resolution, a capital project authorizing resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving Rasmussen Public Sector LLC, successor in interest to SunGuard Public Sector LLC for the purchase, installation, and maintenance of a police software system, providing for a waiver of competitive bidding, authorizing the village manager to negotiate an agreement consistent with and substantially in accordance with the terms set forth in the proposal attached as Exhibit A, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
I move
Which item is this?
This is the addition, though it was G. I would say, can we please table it and bring it back when we bring back the police software?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we did
Right.
pass that item. So it's to be brought back when we've got
So the motion
City
is
of Miami
So the motion is to continue.
to continue. Motion to continue.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The item will be brought back on May 9th. Next item, reports and recommendations. Mayor and council members, discussion of the following proposed ordinance and ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, establishing a 12-month moratorium on the submission, processing, and approval of any application for local business tax receipts, certificates of occupancy, land use and zoning reviews, development applications, land use or zoning development orders for the establishment or operation of medical marijuana facilities as further defined herein, providing for construction, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Mayor Lindsay.
Sure. I brought this up because I'd been contacted by a couple of different residents about their concerns about having a dispensary without having the opportunity to look at our zoning codes and make sure that placement was where it would be, or maybe it wasn't appropriate for our community at all. I think the reality at the state level is that they've given 7 licenses, and that
Going to come here.
I don't think that this is the optimal market. So the idea was to have the moratorium to be able to zone if needed and tweak our ordinance as needed so that we would be in a position to address this matter. But I don't think it's really, we were being cautious. A lot of different communities have done it.
This is real belt and suspenders.
Yes.
Your code does not permit any of those activities now, okay? But many cities have taken a step to just make sure that there is no issue and imposed a moratorium to wait and see what happens through the legislature.
Correct.
Understand the scope of facilities, and then to the extent that the local government thinks they need to do anything, they have that time to evaluate and do it. But currently, just so you know, if somebody came to the village to conduct this activity, whether it's growing, which is not going to happen, but more likely a dispensary.
It may be happening now.
Yeah, but not by any one of the 7 companies.
They didn't pull a permit for it.
So they wouldn't be able to obtain a certificate of use for that activity. But this ensures, again, that nobody's going to even apply.
Yes, Brett.
Can I ask a question about
Yes.
this? This is medical marijuana. This is not recreational marijuana.
That's correct.
CVS and Key Pharmacy, they could potentially offer this because this is medical. I mean, this is the same as offering pills, which are much worse than a medical
realistically,
marijuana,
I
right?
don't think
They actually, unless they're licensed,
being
which they're
very
not,
regulated.
they couldn't be dispensing it.
There's very
There's only
few
7
dispensaries.
companies who have a license from seed to sale, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay. And so CVS or these drugstores are not going to don't have the licenses to do it. Now, that's not to say that they might not make some arrangement with a licensee and dispense through there, but it's more likely that they're going to have their own dispensaries because the conditions placed on somebody who's conducting the sale of this, none of these drugstores are going to be able to comply with. There are certain security obligations. This is still pretty much a cash business.
So you're telling me that in order for this to work, a medical marijuana dispensary, they actually have to be a brick and mortar type company. They have just to sell that only product.
I don't know that they need to be brick and mortar, but I think they will have to. They have to identify a specific location. It's not an online dispense of this stuff. So yes, they're going to have to identify, and they're doing it now. There are several cities that we represent where they've actually come in and sought approvals for a dispensary. But they're building their own, most of them. There are some lease purchase agreements that are being contemplated by the companies.
But it would be a 99.99% that they would ever build, or they would not be able to build one out here just from the economic standpoint.
Well, no, I wouldn't say
building.
from the economic standpoint. I have no idea what the use would be on the island.
No, it's just not going to happen. I think it's overkill. Okay, I happen to support medical marijuana significantly for those people that need it. I think it's something that's a long time coming, and thankful that it's here now. I think we're talking about something that's just not a possibility here in Key Biscayne. So whatever you guys want to do, but I think it's overkill. I just don't.
Again, we don't have the right to
We don't
open a
have a
dispensary
right now to have it.
So that's,
But it's not even
but
legal
this-
yet, right? I mean, it hasn't even gone through the state yet.
It's legal, but the regulations that are being put in place are part of legislation that's now going through the state legislature. And also the Department of Health, I believe, is issuing regulations. So, yes, it's legal, but there isn't a legal method right now
Mechanism
to dispense
for.
it. Now, that it's not completely true. There is still the first strain of marijuana that was approved by the legislature a couple of years ago that is being sold.
Where is it being sold?
It's called.
Yeah.
What?
It's got a name. It's got a name to
but
it.
not-
But it's not. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, not being for or against it, what is the problem of having one here? Just from a standpoint of a community. I mean, it's medical marijuana, right? It's only being provided
only
to
medical
people who
marijuana.
actually need it for
Yeah.
medicine.
The state of Florida is uniquely restricting this right now. I don't know what will happen in the future. It's not like Colorado was. It's not like California, where you're going to find all these dispensaries everywhere.
No.
There are only 7 companies in the state that can distribute this. It's highly regulated. So, it's as Councilman De La Cruz said, it's highly unlikely that they're going to be here. And even if they wanted to, they'd have to get an amendment to the code that would allow the use. So this is, again, I say belt and suspenders. This is
Fair enough.
Is there a reason to do it if there's no way?
I don't see a reason for it, but whatever you guys want to do.
that's up to you. Some councils around the state have just wanted to make a statement. Okay, that
not
this
my
is
backyard.
is what. Don't come here. Okay, and so a lot of this is, even though they can't open up a dispensary in their town, they're doing this to make sure that everybody knows we're against this. So it to a great extent, a lot of these things have become very political, and people just want to make a statement.
Yeah, but in the end, there may be residents who need it.
Yes.
So, that's a whole nother issue.
Well,
that you have to think about.
You'll get to that issue when and if one of the 7 companies.
If we don't do anything,
I
then
think
somebody will
it's-
have to come and try to change our ordinances, and
Yeah,
then we'll
I
deal
don't
with it
think
then.
it's. Yeah, I don't think it's.
And I think they're contemplating a delivery service, by the way.
Yeah, I mean,
Under
I'm sure.
the current statutes, there's going to be a you know, a little truck with a logo, I guess. And it's going to have to be bulletproof.
Driving really slow.
Okay, we can move forward.
Next item, next steps for Village Master's Plan at land acquisition in line with adopted urban planning. Mayor Lindsay.
This is something that we've been trying to discuss for a couple of months now. We had a workshop to address how we were going to move forward with the Land Acquisition Committee and what our plans were, what our vision was. There was a sense from council members that possibly we needed a clear path and more discrete direction for the Land Acquisition Committee. As part of the workshop we had, a big takeaway was to actually engage a consultant to come up with a parks and public space master plan. And so this is follow-up to that. Is that where we want to go and take action to instruct the manager to come up with an RFQ for a master plan for public planning? And I think, Gary, we're talking about the land acquisition, the instructions and the goal and what kind of guidance our Land Acquisition Committee and our residents need in terms of our planning for public spaces and acquiring land and parks.
In a deliberative way.
In a deliberative way, and in an inclusive and deliberative way. So I just think that's the next step. We had not had a chance to really formally discuss it, and then the other option would, the other consideration, if that's the case, which I think would be a good idea, should we put a moratorium on the Land Acquisition Committee for maybe, or a hold for 60 days or 90 days so that we can actually have, you know, more concrete guidance? These are just things for discussion, but I thought we needed to have this discussion. We hadn't had a chance.
And I think that we do need to put a moratorium, and the reason is because the Land Acquisition Committee's emphasis still seems to be primarily on local parks, pocket parks. And I think it's up to this body to set the priorities for the village, and then the Land Acquisition Committee, in whatever form it might take, would help facilitate those priorities. But we're sort of stuck in a little bit of a rut where we continue to look at pocket parks and we are not looking at the big picture. And I think that's what we really need to do. And that's why I mentioned earlier, maybe 2 meetings ago or 3 meetings ago, that the Vision 2020 is close to being expired. It's a lot closer to being over with than when it was first written, and a lot of things have changed since then. The village is different, the population is different, our needs are different, and I think we need to probably readdress the 2020 plan and possibly make it the 2030 plan or the 2040 plan.
2040 or 2050.
Whatever, but it needs to be revisited and updated based upon where we are now and what our vision today is of the next 20 years, as opposed to what the vision was 17 years ago of the next 20 years, which we're almost done with. So that's what I would like to see happen, have that whole vision plan, which is an excellent piece, updated.
Katie.
I don't disagree with you. I think one thing that's interesting, we keep talking about master plans in multiple different areas. And to me, there's a part of this that should have an overwhelming master plan, because we have to set our priorities not only with land, but with beach renourishment and sea level rising and all of those things. So I see it as a much larger thing. We talk about a master plan potentially for underground utilities. I would like to see a plan that encompasses all of those issues and prioritizes them so that we can make sound decisions with our limited resources or tax dollars. That's number one. Number two, we shouldn't lose sight of what we have learned from the past and these plans that have been done in the past, and some of the consistent things that our village has tried to find opportunities to purchase. I mean, playing fields is a perfect example. And we know that's more important today than it was 25 years ago when it was considered a priority. And we happen to right now be in a climate where real estate is down, and there may be opportunities out there. So I also don't think we should put ourselves in a position not to take advantage of potential opportunities. And I don't know if, putting a moratorium means we're not looking at opportunities, or maybe there's another avenue that we are. So
I would suggest, and that's fair. What I envision in a master plan is obviously, and I think, the reason we incorporated and the values that we adopted ring true to as true today as they did 25 years ago. We really know what we want as a community and as a village. I think there's certain practicalities of location and best, for parks and public places and a hierarchy for parks and public places while still having that still be a huge priority. I think that there are still fundamental, the 2020 vision plan is still valid. We have certain priorities that we've identified that have been historically. I don't think we are saying that there is a moratorium on acquiring land. I just feel badly with the Land Acquisition Committee to a certain extent, trying so hard and not getting enough guidance from us. So how do we do it so that they are re-energized? And this is meant from a good place. I think we can do a better job of giving them the guidance they need to succeed and be, and get things done in this climate. Having said that, I think they need that direction. The manager can still take action and is always looking, and he's always tasked with that. And individuals can always approach him and give him ideas, or, there's still, it's not that there's a moratorium on purchasing. I just want to take a little bit of a step back and get a bigger plan somehow. You guys suggest how.
I will tell you, I'm not suggesting a bunch of pocket parks, but I happen to go by the one we have almost every day, and it's very nice to see the quantity of people that are using it. It's a quality park, and on Easter Sunday, I saw probably 10 people in there. They had a bottle of wine, adults, kids were playing, and it may gather even more momentum. I don't know the sphere of people that are using it. We may be just that block, but still.
And I think part of this process is identifying where the best, if we want 3, 4, 5, 10 more pocket parks, optimal places.
Yep.
But Katie, and I agree with what you just said, this is much more than about pocket parks or land acquisition. What we're looking at over the next 10 or 15 or 20 years is so much. It's so huge, dollar-wise and undertaking-wise, compared to what we've done over the last 20 years. When you look at sea level rise and undergrounding, and you look at acquiring huge tracts of land for playing fields and getting into joint ventures with the county and helping rebuild Bear Cup Bridge, and all of these things that are going to cost us a lot of money, we have to be very judicious about how we spend our dollars, especially until we get our master plan updated and have some kind of an idea of how much money we're looking at having to spend. So every time we spend $3 million or $4 million or $5 million on a little piece of property, it's that much less that we have for the major projects that we're going to need to undertake, and that's much more that we're going to have to borrow. And we even are confronted with basically exceeding our borrowing limit. So we've got to be very careful with what we do over the next 20 years, and it's got to be planned out really, really wisely and judiciously. And I think that the way to go is just to make a decision to move forward. Maybe it's with the same kind of a committee that did the original Vision 2020. Maybe it's with a little bit more input of the council directly, or a joint venture. But I think we've got to first get this plan updated.
You don't want a professional involved?
Absolutely. We need a professional.
I think that's the first step.
I think that's exactly, yes. I agree.
I think that's the first step.
Totally.
So, Mr. Moss, Brett, and then Allison.
Yeah, I think that from listening to what you guys are saying, I think there's three steps that we need to be looking at. One is the vision. The vision is, what do we want Key Biscayne to be like in 25 years, right? That's our vision. And then there's a master plan. The master plan, you're looking at what are the elements in order to get to that vision and how do they overlap each other. And the last one would be a strategic plan. And the strategic plan would be, how do we implement each of these elements in order to get them done? So I think that we would have to start at the top and figure out what do we want it to look at, and then we start to work our way down into the master plan, and then we start to say how are we going to implement it and start doing smaller strategic plans in order for implementation.
Yeah, I would want a professional involved.
Absolutely.
As soon as we could.
What is the question on the table right now, though? Because it wasn't about a master plan.
This
was it?
was next steps.
Discussion.
Next steps for villages master plan and land acquisition in line with adopted urban planning. So it's basically, do we need a master plan and how do we implement it through a strategic plan? And that was the takeaway from the multiple discussions and the workshop we had. We hadn't had a chance to follow up. I think, there's a consensus, or I hope there's a consensus, to do and there's a lot on the table right now for the manager. We're doing a lot, but to do an RFQ or an RFP for a consultant that has a specialty in
urban planning.
Urban planning.
And that's where it's going, public and urban planning.
Public and urban planning, yes.
And I think I'm in total agreement that it's time to make a plan, and we're talking about some extremely big ticket items in our future, and we need to prioritize. I get nervous when we talk about land acquisition committee. I want to make sure that we're recognizing that they, I think, experienced a tremendous amount of frustration from the lack of guidance that they received from the council, and I think it's really important that when looking forward that we find a way to give citizens like that and to this group the right kind of guidance so that they're operating in line with what we want. And I also think it's important to sort of reflect on the incredible success of the part that they did and of the tremendous amount of hard work that they've done.
Absolutely, and I think
and I just don't want there to be any sort of a negative feeling here, because I think it's a group of people who have
anybody has
worked.
a negative feeling.
I just want it out there.
I feel guilt that we're not acknowledging them enough and giving them enough guidance, because they are a tremendous group of people who work just continuously to try to, really achieve one of our biggest goals that we've had since incorporation. And I value that.
Including even just the funding, finding
Yes.
reimbursement for part of the park purchase.
Correct. And having said that, there are a couple of things that are on the table that I'm not saying. I just think new and bigger and different. Let's just regroup a little. It's about regrouping.
Sure, they should be involved
it's about
in
regrouping.
what we're talking about.
And they are they're part of this process. They're a critical part of this process. But I think we need to shift gears a little bit and regroup. And again, there are things on the table that I think we're all interested in seeing how it, pans out. So, Mr. Manager, yes.
I'm just curious why one leads to the other. I mean, the master plan, I think we've all agreed on, and what does that have to do with the land acquisition committee and tabling them or just allowing them to continue? I mean, if you could explain that to me.
I think I would like to know when making decisions going forward, and there are some properties that I think have been universal for the last 25 years of desirability, okay? But there are some properties that may be an opportunity and have been pursued, and we haven't all shared the vision. And so I feel badly when they come in front of us, or they don't even get to come in front of us, because they tried hard at working at an opportunity, and it just didn't align with the council and maybe with the public. The public gives input. I think there should be a process where we are all more in tune with what everybody is envisioning. And then what the experts say, well, listen, if you want public spaces and pocket parks and parks to have connectivity and to be walkable, or to have that there is a planning, there's a rhyme and a reason. This is actually there's a method for doing this. It's not willy, and I don't want to say, I don't know enough to know what the best strategy is for us. How's that?
I think my answer to that question is a little bit different. If we put together this master plan and we're looking at having to come up with $150 million to fund these major projects, and I don't know what the number is, but it's going to be very large, I think we might be in a position to say, let's hold off on any more pocket parks. We got to figure out how we're going to pay for all this. So the whole thing, Katie, to me is, let's set our priorities. Let's find out where we're going and how much money we're going to need to accomplish the major things, and then see what we have left for some of the other things. And
having said that, I mean, think about the fact that all they do is, in my understanding anyway, is they look for properties that they think are consistent with decisions that have been made in the past, and then they bring them to the manager. Am I correct? And then he makes a decision on whether that should move forward or not. So we could say, listen, we're not going to be very comfortable about making decisions about things, but you don't necessarily have to stop looking. And if you see something that goes above that, then that's okay too. But I don't see why one has to stop when we're waiting for the other, as long as we're clear with what our message is to this committee.
we're not waiting for anything other than to develop a very cohesive, sensible, fiscally responsible plan that we can afford, that we can actually accomplish, because we aren't unlimited in the funds we have.
I totally agree with you on that.
If we could have 20 pocket parks all over the island, that would be fine, as long as we shored up all of the other needs that we have that are much more important, like you said. And I'm not demeaning anything. It was very nice that we saw 10 people in the park on Heather having a nice time. We've got 13,000 people out here that we've got to take care of, and there are a lot of things that are much more important to the greater number of people than little pocket parks.
Well, then that's our direction. That's up
Yes,
to
it
us
is.
to tell them. And I don't think that, again.
And we're not clear, basically.
But right,
we
we're
wanna
not
make
clear.
ourselves
That's
We wanna
my,
be clear.
that's
How
where
long-
I'm at. I'm
How
not
long
clear.
are you guys thinking in your head of putting together one of these master plans? Are we thinking 2 years out? We're thinking 1 year, like to have a final document?
I think, in my mind, what I would do is say, let's first hire a good, qualified professional, as Louis said, to lead the way, because we aren't experts in urban planning. We need somebody to lead the way. Then he needs to help us, whoever the us is, set our priorities, short-term, mid-term, long-term, put prices on those priorities, try to figure out how much they're going to cost and how we're going to pay for them. And then we have a model that goes 3 years out, 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out. Here's how much money we need during those time segments, and here's what we have to do to come up with the money. And oh, by the way, here's some of the things that we can't be doing at the same time because we don't have enough money to pay for everything, unless we're willing to raise our millage to 4% or whatever.
Or the alternative is, listen, pocket parks are low-lying fruit. They're never going to get it any cheaper than they are now. Gary, you're wrong. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Are we making a decision on this discussion item tonight, or this is just to bring it up to another
it's
meeting to make a
discussion.
decision?
Not an action item. It's not.
All right.
But at some point, we should move forward with the idea of the professional.
Well, I think
Do we give direction to?
Yeah,
the
that's-
2020 Vision Committee.
I
group
think
of
we
people.
can give direction to the manager right now to start looking into that.
Let's do
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, bike sharing program, Councilmember Moss.
Okay, so first I have to thank Todd and the 4 residents that worked on this. They've been doing all the work. I really haven't been doing much except supporting this item. And basically, we looked at 3 different bike sharing programs or companies. And they did all the reviewing, and they came up with the one that they recommend as the best option. For me, bike sharing, anything to increase pedestrian activity and physical activity here in the Key, I think is beneficial for us, especially with the traffic issues that we have, the parking congestions that we have. My understanding, the selection, the one that they recommend the most is called Lime Bike, and it is at no cost to the village. And basically, it's a very interesting system where they actually you can leave the bike anywhere. It has a GPS on it. It has an phone app, where you are able to find a bike just sitting there, and you can pay for it on your app, and it'll actually just unlock on the wheel, and you can just ride along, and when you're done with it, it will lock again anywhere in the Key. So this seems like this could be something that we can try. I don't know if, Todd, you want to talk a little bit about it. My only question would be for you, Todd, is, if it doesn't work, is there any implications to the village, or we just say thank you very much and didn't work, and they come and...
I've been reviewing a contract that they did with, I think it's West Sacramento, and there's a clause in there that the village manager, his designee, can terminate the program.
Okay, so it really, we have no risk in this, and it could be something that we try. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it works, it could be a great thing to have in the Key, a bike sharing program. I know that, Todd, you reached out to City Bike, which we see all over the place, but I think they have a much different infrastructure. There is costs that we would be paying for, and basically their model, I don't think they were ready to come out here yet. So this other company seems pretty interesting to look at as an option.
This is fabulous. This is great. I know that we looked at City Bike a couple years ago, and we were not the right fit. But I think this is a wonderful, wonderful concept. Thank you, your friends, for our residents, for doing this homework. I think it's worth a try. I don't know.
I have a quick question. That
Yes.
I thought about. Do they have smaller bikes, or are they all one size, all adult bikes?
I don't know. I can ask that.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Because I think it'd be great
families.
if the families could use them.
I would equate it to Optimus Ride. We have a great opportunity with a new company that's going to come out and do some really cutting-edge stuff out here.
An issue may be that children are mandated to wear helmets, so then we have a helmet issue, which is fine. It just needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Then if you're okay with it, we'll bring back a draft agreement at the May 9th meeting.
May 9th?
I'm sorry. At our next meeting.
Or possibly the
You want to skip another meeting?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Anyone else want to add? Next item.
Next item, reducing Education Advisory Board committee members from 9 to 7. Councilmember Moss.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring this up because the Education Advisory Board has had 9 members, I think from the time that it started. I'm not sure if we had 7, and at one time it increased to 9, but I remember, I think it was 7 when it began, and then it went to 9. When it went to 9, it got much more difficult to get to the quorum because we needed to have 5 people to have a quorum, which was very difficult. So they've been having issues with that. Now, I believe they right now have 6 members. So I wanted to recommend to see if we can reduce it down to 7 right now. And that way they will only need 4 for a quorum, and it'll be much easier for them to meet. And I don't want to go out of order, but the next one will be appointing that person there.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need a motion?
I don't know. Do you need to make
We
a
need
motion for
to
that?
instruct it's an ordinance, so we would need to amend the ordinance.
It could be next meeting or whatever. It doesn't matter. But
Yep.
I think we should do it.
Next.
Okay.
And then the person that that I was going to recommend was Suli Olavaria as a person who is very interested in and very qualified person that would make a good fit.
Terrific. Thank you very much. We're going to need, we have a report on all the different committee meetings.
To get the ordinance amended to create the position, and then...
No, the position's already there. We're just reducing.
There's still
the
going to
numbers,
be.
and there's still a vacancy.
Yes.
There's still a vacancy. We
Okay,
just need to
fine.
fill it.
Then you can fill it.
Yeah.
So we filled it?
No, not
No.
yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Because we're going to give other people an opportunity to contact
Okay.
us, but that's a great suggestion.
Okay.
Next item, forming an underground utilities task force. Councilmember Moss.
And I'm all in the front here, huh? All right. Underground Utility Task Force. So we met with the engineers who are working in town of Palm Beach. We met with the manager there. Town of Palm Beach put together an underground utility task force. Theirs is made up of 7 members, and I believe that we should follow a similar way of dealing with the underground utilities, in that we need to have a group that will help advise us, because this will take a lot of work and a lot of our time, and we really need some people with expertise. So the idea of this underground utility task force would be to investigate and review of the underground of utilities. They would need to possess the knowledge or expertise in the area of underground utilities project, and be a board or a task force that would advise the village council. And I think most importantly, they will be a group that would increase transparency. They would encourage residents' participation, work with the local community groups and residents, ensure all information related to this project is available to the public, and all property owners will have the opportunity to participate in the process through meetings and discussions. So this group, I think, would be very essential if we want to really move this project, and we're very serious about moving this project forward, to put together. And again, I believe that it should be members that would give their almost an application or resume, so we can take a look at it to see what their expertise are, to make sure that we have the best possible people that are on there. And one additional thing, it should be well-rounded, because I know there are concerns of groups that live in condos and groups that live in houses. So we should make sure that this is a good cut-through representation on both sides, so we have a good conversation to get through this project.
Brett, a couple of follow-up questions. Did they by chance have some kind of governing document or structure that they used in order to get this task force implemented, guidelines, rules that would be helpful? And do you have those?
I know that they have a resolution that I saw. I believe it was a resolution or ordinance, but they have it on. I actually read it.
Okay.
I can get a copy of that and send it over
And
to
anything else
everybody.
that?
And we can read how they structure it. They were also in charge of putting together putting together the website and making sure that they were keeping all that information in their meeting minutes. But it's a very highly active group that is consistently meeting every month.
At what point in the process did they bring on a task force?
They brought it on the very beginning, actually a year before they brought the engineer on.
Okay.
They already had it through. So remember, before the engineer got on board, they have already had 1 year of the task force, and they already went through their general obligation bond voting. Then they brought on the engineer. So it was already before, but it would not hurt us to start doing it now. They would help us, advise us, looking at different ways of financing and different ways of how you maybe pay for it. So they would be very strategic for us, and I don't think we have, as a council, the time to put those hours in, that because we have so many other items that we need to look at up here, that it would take over our meetings. And I think that this would be a way of getting the extra expertise from people who live here and making recommendations to us as well.
Yes, I think this is a good idea, and I fully support it. I think it is important that we act quickly.
Yep.
Because they started earlier than where we're at, and one of the things we learned in Tallahassee is that this hardening has to happen by
regulatory,
but
2020, or completely done by 2020.
Completely done by 2020, like
We
we
gotta
started
stop that.
2018. We
Yeah.
have to get
We
moving.
have to.
We have to do everything we can
So
to
if
stop.
this is something that we're going to do, we have to do everything quicker.
And Brett, thank you for circulating that picture you saw of the hardening project. That was a great visual. Wasn't that
You didn't like
outrageous?
it? You
And
didn't
if,
like
I don't
that?
know if you noted, but they also kept the wooden poles up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're tiny. They're like tiny little things that you see every once in a
In all
while.
fairness, they're going to take the wooden
They
poles
take them.
out of
Yeah.
here, but those concrete poles are going to look even worse on our streets than on those.
They're taller, and they're putting more of them.
Right, more closer together.
Closer together,
Right.
and it looks like a fence,
You know,
basically.
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, task force, you wanted to make a comment about task force.
Yeah, well, I am absolutely 100% behind this idea. That's all I can say. I mean, we had this meeting with these people. They supported it wholeheartedly. They thought it was one of the most important things that they had going for them in this project. And I really think that we need to go forward with it as soon as we possibly can. So if it's lending him the resolution so he can put it together for the next meeting or whatever, then let's get it done.
And I'd say the resolution and also follow up, and I don't know who wants to do that, but to get whatever other, what came after the resolution to help structure the board and the,
We can reach out to them in
Terrific.
Town of Palm Beach.
Terrific. Next item.
Next item, regulation of leaf blowers, Councilmember Petros.
I can't believe I'm talking about it finally. Okay. I brought this forward because this is probably the single thing that I've heard from most residents that they would like to see eliminated on our island. And I know historically, I've gone back to look, that there is a restriction of noise ordinance that passed, and whether that's been well regulated or not, I don't know. But when I've looked at leaf blowers in general, and I'm talking specifically about the gas leaf blowers that have a two-stroke engine, and you will see that not only is the noise pollution a significant issue, but the air pollution. And these engines are designed to run at 4 times the speed of a car engine. And they're also meant to be very lightweight, obviously, so you can put them on your back, but that means the noise is that much more. There's nothing to buffer the noise. That's why it's so annoying. And the other thing is it's a low-frequency noise that permeates buildings. And that's why you hear them so clearly in your house. And there are many communities that have gone before us, and I've forwarded articles over the past 2 or 3 months of other places. Given what our stance is on trying to be eco-friendly, be ahead of the schedule, think about our environment, I just think it is a strong statement to move forward on eliminating the gas engine leaf blowers, not giving them certain times in the day. The other thing is what is their purpose? I mean, they don't pick up the leaves. They blow them somewhere else. They blow them in our storm drains. The manager has told me they create a problem just for public works as well. So I think there's many reasons that we should really think long and hard about making this decision. I recognize it will be a burden on landscaping units, and it'll be a burden on the ones that actually do the landscaping for our village. But I feel like we could say it's okay to have some leaves on our streets, and we can use rakes and we can use bags, and I think that would be a really good message.
Do we have a restriction on the decibel levels of the leaf blowers right now?
No, we have. Well, I shouldn't. What we did was several years ago actually incorporate restrictions on leaf blowers for, I believe,
time of day?
No, for one particular development, but it may have been actually all the multifamily areas. Okay, and we did not regulate the single family and duplex areas within the town.
Well, that's not
at
fair.
all. Well, the sense was that it would be eliminating the ability of the yard people from accomplishing what they do, which is to blow your property clean. And so it seemed to be a hardship at that time. So the council did not pursue that. But you can certainly regulate it.
Well, what's the alternative to leaf blowing? I mean, they could do like a mulching, where they have the thing on the back of the truck. And
they could rake.
Man, they're going to be there all day raking some of those yards.
They could put a bag on the mower to get the leaves that are in the grass.
And a lot of people do.
I don't think it's so much the leaves on the grass as the ones that are on the street.
Streets, yeah.
Because the leaf blowing, I think, if anything, it blows away from where you don't want the leaves on the street part of
They
it.
go to someone else's property.
The dirt blowing is disgusting too.
I
the
can
dirt
tell
on the
you
key is like this, just black sand,
that
and
this
it is all airborne all the time.
This morning there was a gardener doing leaf blowing, and I walked the dogs, and I came back and walked them again, and they were all in their neighbor's yard. So it's displacing leaves sometimes.
And then they just
So
blow
one way,
back.
and then they blow back.
And their guys come the next day and blow back.
Well,
in
and
their
there, I looked at a leaf blowing company's standard of use, and if you look at the rules that they put, nobody adheres to them. There should only be, you shouldn't be within 500 feet of a leaf blower. They shouldn't operate more than one next to another. I mean, none of these rules apply in the actual use.
I think what we're talking about, and I agree with you, by the way, is a noise pollution problem that we have out here, not just from leaf blowers, but from lots of other sources. And maybe what we ought to be doing is trying to modify our noise ordinances and incorporate the leaf blower and anything else that, interferes with people's enjoyment of being where they are.
But an easy fix for being able to enforce that would be to go to electric leaf blowers, because they're a lot
You
quieter.
can use the electric. The maintenance people aren't going to be able to use those so much. And they don't have that same level, that frequency. An electric leaf blower is not nearly as much of a nuisance.
What are they
as the
using in
gas.
the multi-story? They're using electric?
I think they bought equipment that was at a certain decibel, and that was an acceptable solution.
Gary, I will tell you, obviously chainsaws and lawnmowers are other issues of noise. However, I think it's impractical to say that we're going to outlaw chainsaws. They need to be used at certain times, and they serve a real purpose in my mind, and as does a lawnmower, and nobody's actually complaining about those. So I think we all recognize that there are some noises we have to deal with, but I think this machine in particular the cost benefit doesn't apply.
So what do we want to do? You want us to look at the noise ordinances and see if we?
I would like us to consider actually banning these two-stroke gas leaf blowers.
Come back,
Yeah.
and we'll
Banning the two-stroke gas leaf blowers, so they would use electric. And you're positive electric is quieter. Because
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Because shouldn't you also have a decibel
You can have a
ordinance for
decibel
leaf
if you
blowers
want.
too? Because what if they find an electrical one that's loud?
You have to regulate the machine as opposed to the noise, because you can never really enforce these
that's
noise
true.
ordinances, because somebody's out there, the police come out with some machine that tries to measure the decibels. They're already gone, so you can't cite the guy because you don't know whether he violated. It's impossible. You have to regulate the actual activity of using that.
Yeah, because the
But if
multifamily
he's gone.
Right, it's gone.
Yeah.
You can either regulate
Every time
the
code
type of
enforcement
machine
comes, you
that's
turn it
used,
off.
or just eliminate them entirely.
Yeah.
I would like to get input from the manager and whether you feel like that is something that would be a tremendous burden on the village to enforce.
No, I hate to do it, but Jason, the chief from the police is here. We have, based on complaints, we have decibel meters, and we go out there and we review or we attempt to find the person that's creating that noise when there is a complaint. It's not overburdening. I don't think that we've had any. Have we had any in the recent past? No, we went to a spurt there. I think what we need to do is, I'm in full favor of, segueing away from the gas-powered ones and going to the electric ones. But either way, for enforcement, I've got, with the exception of the weekends, we've got our officers out there every day, and we've got code compliance out there every day, except on the weekend.
So why don't you work with them and
come up with an
bring
ordinance.
something back for the next meeting, and we'll pass it, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Good idea.
And that way we can go to the next item.
Next item, discussion on next, sorry.
No, managers.
I would suggest that we go to the manager's report.
Yes, sir, I apologize. I apologize. Village Manager's Report, motion to issue RFQ for undergrounding utilities program. Mr. Manager?
Thank you. I'm recommending that the village council authorize the manager to issue the enclosed request for qualification seeking professional engineering services for the village-wide undergrounding utilities program. During the March 14, 2017 council meeting, the village council directed the manager to prepare the RFQ in order to obtain a qualified firm to provide the program management and design services for the underground utilities program. What you have before you is a proposal which outlines exactly what I think that we're trying to do, and that would be to be sure that the services that this company does deals with the land surveying, the utility location and assessments. We talked about that earlier this evening. utility coordination, legal services, the easement acquisition, public information, residential coordination, we're talking about that with the task force, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, landscaping architect, program management, construction review, construction administration, and construction bid document preparation. In essence, what I'm asking the council to do is, based on the recommendation that I had back in March, is to hire a firm that takes our undergrounding of utilities from start to finish, from A to Z.
I move we accept this.
You made the motion?
I did.
I second. Can I say
And
something?
open
please?
discussion?
Sorry.
Okay.
We're going to open the discussion now.
I just have two things. First, thank you for putting this together. I think it looks fine. I think the team that you guys all worked on this is a great job. I think, and also we're moving in the right direction for sure. Two small things. One, I noticed when I was reading this that we have Calvin Giordano and Associates Inc. will receive everything and review everything. We have not approved them yet to do anything, right? Council has not approved anything for them. I would make the recommendation, if we could, I'm not saying that we're not going to use them, we could use them, but instead of cornering ourselves into something, we should call this the village representative will review this, and then that will keep us open to make the decision of hiring them, because we don't know what price they're going to give us right now. We don't know anything except of what they gave us before. This is only just to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're not going to use them, but once we send this out, and for any reason we don't use them, we would have to redo the whole RFQ and resend it out again. So that was the one comment. The second one, and Steve, you might be able to answer this one.
Sure.
I just saw that the work to be performed. The one thing I don't see in there that sometimes does come up by the time costing and things like that would be value engineering. I'm not sure if that's already an intent that's already inside here somewhere, but just in case if the price came up too high because we wanted to add this, this, and this, they would be able to provide us with a service saying, well, maybe we can look at how we could reduce the cost for you, and we'll bring that back to you. And most of the time in engineering, we like to charge
That's
extra
fine.
for that. So.
That's fine. They would be doing their own value engineering, though. In other words, the way the RFP is set out is the firm that is selected is actually going to do all the plans and design and drawings and everything. So if you're looking for a separate person, sort of a peer review, we can do that, but that's not part of this proposal.
Then that's fine.
Right.
That's fine. Okay. That was my only two comments, and I'm ready to approve it. So.
And I'm sorry, you wanted to speak,
I just
and I
wanted to ask,
apologize.
it says expected to include but not limited to. Do we want to add the piece that we took out earlier, like the surveying and?
I think that's a good
Or
idea.
in it,
Oh, yeah.
it's
The data
included.
gathering.
Okay. And my concern, or just, it's not even a concern, but that I'd like to raise is, so we would go with one person, one entity to do from soup to nuts, and we're not dividing them in two phases of master planning and then an MC at risk.
Yeah, I think the way it is right now is only engineering.
Only engineering.
We're not doing a soup to nuts right now, right?
No.
This is to do a master plan
soup to
first.
nuts.
This is soup to
No,
nuts.
It's not a master plan.
This is soup to nuts.
Yeah, this
is
what,
not a,
this is what you asked the staff to do, which was do what Palm Beach did. So this is what Palm Beach did. Our people did a wonderful job, but they took it from Palm Beach's proposal. So understand that by doing this is a huge
This is it.
decision tonight.
This is it.
You're in.
But I have to say that Town of Palm Beach does not have the engineering doing the construction. They hired a separate firm.
No, not doing the construction.
Okay.
Understand that tonight, this is a huge decision.
Of course.
You're making a commitment now to go forward with the project.
No, we're making a commitment to get qualified engineers who we want to select to do the RFP with.
No.
No.
No, this is the request for proposals for qualified firms to come in and be your program manager.
I didn't read it that way either.
I did. That's why I raised what I did.
I mean, this is not a light decision. This is a maybe a multi-million-dollar decision you're
Yes.
making tonight.
We're actually not. We're just asking for an RFP.
I
We don't
understand,
have to
but if
accept
you're not-
any of them.
No.
RFQ.
Wait. I know you don't have to accept them, but if you don't intend in the next 60 to 90 or 120 days to hire these people,
Nobody's ever gonna work
why are
for
you
us.
going to propose it?
Yeah.
Why are you asking for the invite?
Well, maybe we have a wrong RFQ then, you know.
I read the RFQ that we were selecting 3 firms in order then to send out the RFP. That's what I read in here, that they would at least have a minimum of 3 firms that we would select, that Giordano would select out of this group that was to qualify.
Ultimately, you will make a decision. If we get 3 proposals, then you can make a decision from the 3. They'll be ranked by whoever, whether it's Calvin, Giordano, or somebody else. But what Palm Beach did is they selected the program manager. This is the group that is going to develop the entire program for you. What you want, it's everything.
It's everything.
They're preparing
Project
the whole
management,
package,
everything.
project management, design services, and then ultimately when they come up with the design package after working on the program for probably a year or 2, they will help you put it out to bid.
Okay, so
to
then,
a contractor.
Then we need to make sure that in this document that we get, that we have stages of payment for certain things that they do, right?
We're far from stages of payment. In other words, you first have to go through a process of picking 3 qualified firms who can serve as a program manager.
Yes.
Okay, and ultimately you'll take it down to 1 and select them. But what I'm saying to you is, the scope of this work is millions of dollars. So I don't know that are you ready to make? Don't go out and ask for these people to do these proposals because they're major undertakings for firms to do. Unless we're ready to hire one of them and get going.
So
sounds to me like you want a task force before you do this.
No, what I want is someone to do a data collection and master plan now, and a task force. Those are the things that we need going first. When we met with the engineers for Town of Palm Beach, they are not doing the construction management at risk. They are only doing the engineering. Then there's another firm that came on to do it.
Correct.
Okay, so I think the Town of Palm Beach they're a $90 million project, not a $30 million project. And I think they spent, my understanding was about $1.8 million for them to do the whole front end with their engineer, somewhere around that cost. Then there's many stages in that. And there's a stage of just doing the master plan and data collection. Then there's another stage of doing the actual design and other implementations of other pieces like public outreach.
They will submit proposals to you. First, it's qualifications. And then you pick the most qualified firm, and then you can negotiate a contract with that firm, whatever contract you want, the scope of the services, the stages of payment. You're going to hire them as the program manager under this. The way you're going, this is what Palm Beach did.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's, I think, what the staff was instructed to do. Just go do what Palm Beach did.
Yeah.
So that's what they've done. So if you're not ready yet to bring these people on board, then I just caution you not to go out and ask for them and then realize after the fact, oh my God, what did we do? We don't need these people now. So I think we need to understand what this does.
I totally agree. That's why I wanted to make sure that people understood how large a step.
Right.
My one thing that I would remind us all of is that we do have a timeline for making decisions, whether we decide we're going to do it or we're going to let the hardening project go forward. But there is a substantial investment to getting to the point where we have the best information possible to make the decisions. This is the most efficient way of getting there. It's costly, but we're getting what we pay for. But it is the most efficient way of getting there. We could do the data collection and master plan, but then we'd have to do the more engineering. There are added steps, and let's just consider that.
Let's page 13 at the bottom explains what
Can I
the
interject
scope
here?
of work is
Can
that you're putting out.
Can I interject?
Yes.
Okay. Page 14, okay. All right. Says work to be performed. Says the categories of services that may be required are as follows.
Right.
There's no requirement of any one particular service. So the way I looked at it was we're finding firms that are qualified to do all these different things, and then we will determine what it is that we want to contract with them. That's the way I
Yes, but you're not going to pick. But you don't know. In other words, that's what you're hiring them to. You don't know what to pick and choose.
Well,
in other words, how do you these?
We will when we talk to them, and when we talk to our task force, and when we come to a decision that we're going forward with this project.
Okay.
Well, I got a question,
I
Steve.
think we need a higher level of
I'm
expertise
a little
for this.
confused. We don't even know if we want to do underground because we don't
That's
know.
my question. Are
Well,
you
let
ready
me
to
ask
go?
my question. We don't know enough to know what we need to know.
That's
Why we need a consultant.
Well,
if this is not a consultant because it says consultant, and I don't think that we're hiring someone to implement an underground utility project right now. We're hiring somebody to educate us as to what's involved.
I agree with you,
What's
but that's
our
not what
plan?
you asked the
How does
manager
it
to
go?
do.
How long does it take? What's the disruption? What would the schedule look like? And then we can decide maybe what we're doing. How would you suggest we find out? How to even make
Isn't
a
that the
decision
master plan?
without hiring somebody?
No, that's not the master plan. Instruct your task force to go out and do all that work that you want and come back with a report to
But
you.
why can't we have the people that we find in this RFQ to do exactly that?
Okay, well then you got to change the RFQ. Then we got to change this. This is not that. You told us to do what Palm Beach did. That was the specific instruction. We did that. If that's not what you want, then you got to tell us what you want. Because the manager first came to you with one proposal, which was to get a firm to do an as-built turnkey operation for the whole thing. You said, no, that's not the way we want to go. We want to do what Palm Beach did. This is what Palm Beach did. If you don't want to do this, then tell me what you want to do.
Well, see, we didn't even know enough to ask you what we wanted to ask you.
Well, and that's.
So,
Hold on, what
And
about?
we've been spinning our wheels for an
Yes, we
entire
have.
year.
Yes, we have.
Yes,
I
and
have an
yes.
idea.
Yes.
We all agreed we want this task force, and we'd like to get that together. And maybe, I mean, again, not to table everything, but maybe in a month, we'll have a different opinion about this RFQ.
So
Because we could move forward on the task force and do a little more research on exactly, we can ask some questions of these engineers, because I also was in this meeting with Brett, and I feel like what they did had nice, clear steps. And we just need to get more information from them, exactly what this RFQ meant to their city as well.
I understand that. I do think, let's be realistic, a task force, we're going to need to pass an ordinance.
It'll be August by
Two
the
readings.
time.
We're going to need to then vet and hopefully get enough people so that we have a selection process. We
So
will
that's
have a
not quick.
task force in place in maybe 5 months. They will then need 6 months to study, to come back before the master plan, and we will have an idea of our next step in exactly a year.
At which time the hardening may have already started.
At which time the hardening will have already
As
started.
long as we're moving forward with the task force, would that hold the hardening project because they see us moving forward?
They are holding back right now because of our interest. In fact, Pinecrest had to sue FPL and is trying to see what they can do now. This is according to Chad. I spoke to him at the League of Cities dinner. And they are trying to slow things down and trying to do what we did. We have actually slowed down the process a lot. The challenge we have is federal regulatory agencies are mandating FPL to do the hardening by 2020 because of Hurricane Sandy. So they have,
My idea was that we can hire a firm that can do everything, but stage one would be put the master plan together. I know it would be a few $100,000.
Yes,
I'm
but
sure
that's
of
what
that.
the program manager is going to do with you.
Yeah.
That's the program. In other words, they're going to help you put together the program, the master plan of the scope of work, what needs to be accomplished, what you all want, and That's part of their initial service under this.
Yeah.
Then they'll move
And
forward
then
with
maybe
design.
we'll quit when we
Yeah,
find
we
out
could.
that we didn't like what the master
So,
plan.
and maybe we structure a contract that
That's-
provides
but
for
we need to
termination.
take-
Exactly.
We need to take an affirmative step forward to get the information that we don't have, which is why we can't make a decision.
That's what this
Because Gary's
RFQ says
absolutely
to me
right.
that we have the
Wanna get that
capability
plan.
of doing, because it says the scope of services may be.
I understand because
This is qualified.
that's not the intent. The intent is not to tell them when they come here, oh, we just want you to do
Chinese
1
menu.
and 2.
Right,
Well,
right.
The reason
But we
they're
will tell
putting
them
that
that.
in there, the reason that list is in there so that they understand the extent of the proposed project. But if you really read at the bottom of 13, I think it will be helpful to understand what this is doing. It says exactly what you guys are talking about, but it's soup to nuts.
Yeah.
But I mean, the conversations that I've had with you personally.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I've told you all along that we're not ready to make the decision to go this forward.
I agree with you, but that's not what you directed everybody to do at the last meeting.
I don't remember. I don't really know what was perceived as what we were
No,
asking.
it wasn't perceived. There was a specific, because we talked about it. I didn't want the staff to jump in and waste time on this.
Yeah. Okay.
There was a specific
Yes.
motion and direction to prepare now program manager RFQ, just as Palm Beach had done.
Steve,
what I
given
did.
our concerns.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
read this document differently.
Okay, well, then issue it.
Steve, given our concerns,
Yes.
is there a way to slightly alter this so that we feel like we can handle this in a more stepwise progression? Or because
Yes.
so how can we have this RFQ, send it out there, and still feel like we can
It
get?
would be a different RFQ. If you're looking for somebody to simply work with you on developing a program,
which may end up being soup to nuts.
which is to sit down, a firm to work with you and say, estimating costs of the program, the extent of it, the time involved, everything. We can put out an RFQ for that limited scope of work.
But what I don't want is the same feasibility study that we ended up
Yeah,
getting. Where
no,
they gave
I
us
think it needs to be
I
more
don't
than
want
that.
something that we can get off the
No,
internet.
this is the actual program that you're going to execute, that they would be building.
But when
with
you say program, what are you saying? Are you saying the master
The
plan?
master plan.
Okay, you can call it a master plan. It is a detailed program of the scope of work that the project is going to entail. So if it's like any program, if you go to an architect and you say, what's the program? I mean, well, we want to build enough building for 200 people, and we want 5 bedrooms. That's the program, okay? That's what they're going to do. They're going to sit down with you and say, what's the program, guys? Let's sit down and talk about what it is you want this project to entail, okay? And they will develop that program with you. And they may say, you may say, well, we want this. And they're going to say, you understand how much that's going to cost to include within this program, okay? So they'll help you develop the plan, the program that you'll then go and implement, okay? Which the next stage after that is design, construction, drawings, bidding. But what I'm saying is until, like Gary said, he doesn't even know whether he wants to do this. By bringing these people on, you're pretty much making a decision. We want to do it. You're going to spend several $100,000 for these people to work on this program with you. Okay? So if you're not there yet, then maybe you want the task force to help you understand the scope of all of this and tell you whether you're ready or not.
Well, who's the task
Steve,
force?
I don't know.
I
It's
think-
the one you just voted for.
Steve,
But we still need some professional
Yeah, well, the
expert,
task force-
for lack
okay.
of better word,
The task force could
to
include,
guide it.
Okay, the task force may well include experts, okay, that may not be your next door neighbor, but somebody who's involved in electrical engineering, whatever it happens to be, and they may need the power to authority to hire people to help them through that task.
I personally don't want to go that route. I don't want a group of citizens leading the way on this. I want to find someone that can get us to the point
Gary, are you
To-
comfortable spending a couple $100,000 to get to that point?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Because
but-
we have to.
We're gonna have
We
to.
have to.
But then I
this
think-
is
Guys, wait,
Yeah.
guys, this proposal, the way it's set up, with our very learned counsel, can be adjusted so that it does what
That's
we wanted to do.
But not only-
And it doesn't necessarily, say, we're going full speed on this. In other words, we're in the process of making the decisions to do this, and we need somebody to help us make all these decisions.
So
And-
think about it in a smaller way. Let's say you're just doing a home, okay? You're hiring the people to set up the program of what you want for your home, okay? It's not what it looks like yet. It's how many bedrooms, how many dining rooms, whatever it is. Do you want a swimming pool? Do you not? Then the next stage is designing
Design.
it, okay? And the next stage after that is bidding it out, okay? But you're sort of making the decision in hiring a program manager, even if it's for a limited scope within this, that you want him to work with you on developing a program. You're committed to going forward, at least at this time.
Didn't they do this in Palm Beach? Didn't they issue an RFQ for this in Palm Beach?
This is it.
That's why we're doing exactly that's what you
What I'm
asked
trying to
for.
tell you is that I don't read this the way that you read it.
This is
I
what,
do.
This is
I
what
do.
under this proposal, this is what they use to hire Kimley Horn.
Yes, but then you can quit in the middle of it.
Okay, but don't say that it doesn't ask for all that. Maybe you have a right to terminate.
Yes,
So we have an RFQ coming. They're qualified. Once that comes, we do an RFP for the selected one that we want to go. And in the RFP, we can say
you don't do an RFP.
You're done. You pick the firm that you think is
they're
the
going to
most
give us
qualified.
they're going to give us prices, or we
No,
negotiate
you
the
got to
price.
negotiate.
You then
the price.
negotiate
Okay.
the price.
So can we add in here that we have the different stages and we have areas of where we can terminate?
We don't know what the stages are.
Okay.
You were saying that we could build something into the contract.
Of course, you can terminate. We put them in every contract we do for you.
Or when we
That the
negotiate.
village has the right to terminate with 15 days or 7 days notice, as long as we pay them for the work they've done.
Perfect.
We can do that. I'm just suggesting that if you're putting this out to firms, they're going to come forward and show you their qualifications to do all of these things.
And that's what
That's
we
good.
want.
You want that.
I want to see the whole thing.
Yes.
And then I want to say, these are the guys that we want to go with.
Yes.
And then I want to say, guys, start. Get us to this master plan, and we'll pay you for
Absolutely.
that.
That's not
then
that
we can look
difficult.
at what we're doing, and then
Okay.
if we
And
want to
then if we
continue,
decide to continue, we already have
If
them.
not, we say thank you.
Okay, this is what you need this for then. If you just want to if you want to put in here, so it's clear to the people who are responding, that the village may engage you for different stages and may terminate after each stage.
Absolutely.
We can do that.
Yeah, you don't have to say terminate
Not after
each
each
stage,
stage,
but you can just
after
say
the-
we want it in stages. First
Right.
stage would be
Right.
data gathering and master plan. Second stage,
Listen,
design.
I'll tell you what.
and-
Kimberly Horn is going to be one of the companies.
They may likely be the
and I'm hoping that's probably that they are, because I mean we got very good feelings from them, really good.
I hope
So-
we get the best possible engineering from the United States. It doesn't matter what their name
Right,
is. They're going to
exactly.
be the
But
best.
this one is doing the same job down the street, and they seem to know what they're doing. So what I'm suggesting is they will know exactly what we're looking for. They know exactly what we're looking for.
Well, they have a question and answer period in here too, where they can ask questions to our manager. Of
course.
And the manager can make that clear that we want it in stages. So while they're putting it
They
together,
were hired under this same RFP.
Then we're not making
I'm okay to move it forward.
$1 decision. We're embarking on something where we could continue with that same firm in order to do our whole project if that's what we wanted to do.
But it is a
we're not binded.
significant investment. It is
Of
a
course.
big
Well,
commitment.
it's significant
But it's
investment
the
if it
only
goes
way of knowing.
$200,000.
It's the only way. It's
$200,000 is a significant investment, at least to me it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so long as we understand that we're starting in that sense, and that they need to understand that we
Then
need
let me
to-
make a suggestion. I don't know what you need a task force for. In other words, at this point, to send a task force
Steve,
out.
because we want the task force.
No.
We've
There's two
decided
things.
that that's what we're gonna do.
We still need help with financing. We still need help with the transparency, public participation, and the amount of time that's going to take. Because the task force should also be looking at these guys when they come in. They could also be
I
looking
think
at
the
them.
task force is also for sort of like if you will, like
Kimberly,
our domestic
whatever the horn,
issues that we
suggested
have to try to do this in
that
such
the
a
task
short
force
time.
was an incredibly important aspect of what they were doing.
But what you may want to do is include with this that they will convene the charrettes and task force efforts, and that they will solicit the input from the community.
They can do that, but having represented from the community who are expertise and people who know who they are, and some who represent this side and some who represent that side, we're going to get a much more cohesive and more credible group than an engineer who just comes in and tells you.
Yes, the timing then is important, because
For sure.
if the task force work is going to take as long as you say, and that's not unlikely because there's a lot there.
There's a lot
They're talking
there.
about financing and design and everything else. Then I'm not sure you're ready for these guys, because these guys need the task force report and input in order to help you with this program. Or else you're going to have the professionals working away at this and a task force working away at that at the same time. And you're going to be getting it from two different groups. You're going to have a very professional, expert task force and a firm that's giving you all of the stuff.
The task force is not going to be that professional, that expert. We're going to have people in our community being part of that task force. They may or may not be more or less experienced. The task force is one of the largest reasons for the task force is to be able to get out to the community and find what they're thinking about this whole thing and how to structure it and who to bill and who's going to pay for it and how we pay for it.
So what we should do is I'm going to bring you the nuts and bolts of a committee task force, and over before our next meeting, to the extent that you have ideas about what you want the task force to do, start feeding them to me so that I can put them in the ordinance, because we're
That's
going
very
to
easy.
describe.
I think Brett will be able to get you that this week.
Okay.
Fine. I'll find out what the other ones use, and you guys add whatever you need
Allison
to.
would like to speak. Ours is by necessity going to be different than Palm Beach's. Palm Beach's task force came first. They probably did many of these things that you're suggesting ours would do. We don't have that luxury. We don't have that kind of time. We need to get these professionals to come in to do the nuts, the bolts. We need our task force to be doing what Lucho said, to be reaching out within our community, figuring out what is the best way to have everyone on board, who feels what's going on here or there, reaching out to the community with communication. We have to be doing both at the same time.
Yes.
Okay, it's really more of an outreach
Yes.
program using the task force for that purpose.
Yes, yes.
I think
Okay,
it's
but you
important to
need
have
to-
people on it
but
who
that
know
task
what they're
force-
talking about.
I got it. But I think that task force needs to know what they're selling.
Yes.
Okay? And that's the problem here, because they're not going to, when you put them together, what are you asking them to do?
We'll be able to tell them that. I mean,
Okay.
Well,
The
we need
master
to
plan
see
is going
that
to help
ordinance.
them
We'll see.
find out what they're selling.
No, but
Yes,
that's what I'm
exactly.
saying. That's what I'm
They're
saying.
going to need the master of the program.
Steve, the other thing
Yes.
that they did was they actually, the engineers had to go to the task force every month and report on the state of the project. And so then the task force was able to disseminate that information theoretically to us and to the community. And the other thing,
It sounds like the commission really delegated the
Yes.
authority over this project to the
I don't know if they did the full authority.
but-
I don't think that was the impression I got. But the other thing,
no authority.
The task force was able to use their knowledge and their influence also to help potentially
No, I
speed up
agree with
some
you.
of these phases. Like,
agree
for
with you.
example, FPL taking a long time with design and using their influence to make sure that these deadlines were met as best they could. So it's just broadening our base
All-encompassing.
to try to get this project
I
done.
think that the coordination between the program manager and the task force is going to have to kind of develop.
Yes, and
And I think
it
it's
will.
interfacing with the public and really, and when we have our town halls or workshops, they will be informed citizens that have a higher level of information. So it's
And don't get me wrong, the engineers also met with the manager very frequently of the village. It's not like this was completely driven between the task force and the engineers. The village.
I'm less concerned about the engineers. I think I know what you're asking for. I'm more concerned about writing into this task force what their responsibilities are and what the scope of work is. Because committees, you need to give committees
Specific
a
task.
specific task.
That's right.
And if, for example, you haven't decided yet on what type of financing you're going to do or anything else, okay, so you're not. Are you asking them to give you the input on that?
Yeah, why not? I think
Okay.
I think they should do some of that research.
Yes.
Because there's a lot, and then present what they come back with because
Okay.
they have some
So
expertise.
they're really
in
going to
that.
report back. One of the major roles is to report back to you on
Counsel.
each of the critical components
that's
of this
correct.
process.
Perfectly, yes.
That's correct.
That's it.
Yes.
Use their expertise to help us. You know,
We
and,
don't want
and,
to
and the
abdicate our
manager's office.
responsibility to make decisions. We just want somebody to do the studying, to help us,
Okay.
to reach out to the
It's a
community.
big responsibility. You're
It
going to
is.
have to find people who are really
Yeah.
committed.
Absolutely.
Well, and I
And
think
we're
we
in a
have to be
tight
really
time frame.
clear, too,
Well,
about
and
what
we're not going to. It's not
disciplines
going to
we
be, and
want
it shouldn't be that many
represented.
people. Maybe 4, maybe 5 people. It shouldn't be that many people.
Could be 5 people.
You know,
A bunch of architects.
5 people is what we're looking at. We're not thinking, 15 people, and they can reach out and they can use whoever they need to in the community. I think people will help us. I know people that will help us.
Okay, so what I think you're asking for is to come back with an ordinance that attempts to set forth the scope of the task force, correct? And at the same time, come back with a modified RFP. Or RFQ, excuse me, but which is still going to look pretty much like
Very
this,
much like that.
but is going to have a statement that we may contract for only part of the services,
Correct.
all the services
Exactly.
that are described.
That's
in
what
here.
I'm trying to tell you. You can tweak this document. You're a very, very
Yes.
learned, very, very capable
No,
attorney.
she did most of it. It's really
Okay,
good.
but you need to take over at this
Anna
point.
DeVerona,
You need
John,
to
myself.
take over at this point.
Okay.
And you need to you
I
need to do the
withdraw my
tweaking,
motion.
Okay, and you need to make it.
This was just presented for this type of discussion from the manager. I don't think we expected that you were going to approve this thing tonight, although I hoped you would.
Gary?
But
I think we can approve it, right? I
and
don't
so
see anything that's changed.
we'll bring back a modified
approve it.
RFQ and a committee
Do you all want to vote on it?
task force.
Can we approve it
With the
just
amendments?
saying that you're going to add that
I'd
language, or you're not
I'd
comfortable?
prefer that you. I mean, I know.
I want to withdraw
I don't
the
know
motion.
if it's a big hurry.
Let me talk. I want to withdraw the motion because, like a couple of other people up here, and maybe everybody, I had a total misunderstanding of what we were signing on to here, and I really thought we were going to get somebody to get us to the point where we can make a final decision as to A, do we want to go forward with undergrounding, and B, if we do, how are we going to do it, and then help us develop the plan.
correct.
If that's not what this is, I totally withdraw my
not what
motion.
this is.
No,
and
it's
I
more
wanna bring
comprehensive.
that- And I want to
This
bring it.
assumes
It could
that
be.
you've made the decision.
Fine, I've listened to this for 45
Right,
minutes already,
okay.
and I understand what this
Okay.
is. And I understand what it's not.
Okay.
And it's not what I thought we were getting.
Okay.
Now let's get what we thought we were getting, and we can vote on it next meeting.
Right.
This is like a circular
but-
crazy.
Gary, this is what we asked for.
So maybe we asked for the wrong thing.
Correct. So
And
let's
I
move
think
forward.
I figured that out a half hour
I
ago.
think we've articulated what we really need.
Good. So no motion.
Blame us.
No?
We asked for the
There's no
wrong
blame.
thing.
Okay, can we move
I
forward,
thought we were
guys?
asking for something
Fine,
else,
let's
but
talk about
it's
something else.
okay.
Next item, please.
Let's go to the next item.
Position of 571 Glen Ridge Road and 570 Fernwood Road. Mr. Manager.
Just a quick update. I asked for updated appraisals back about 6 weeks ago on these two pieces of property. I received the appraisals. I sent them to a representative of the two property owners. We've been in contact as late as this afternoon. So this is moving forward. I'm not ready to bring back something to the council yet, but we are actively involved in conversations with them.
And just so everybody's fully aware, I received a call from an attorney that's been hired by both parties to try to see if they can come to an agreement with us on the purchase of those properties.
Who's that?
Mario.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Next item, environmental study. Mr. Manager.
What you have in front of you, Council, is an environmental study that was asked of me to do at the Friday morning meeting for the piece of property that was in the second addendum and the way it was laid out. So you've got the scope of work, you've got what they're willing to do, you have the price that goes along with that for this amount of work at that location only. Okay? I know
Where is that?
I'm sorry?
It's right here. Did you get 20? It's right here.
And again, remembering that this was, so that we're point specific on this.
I'm sorry, it's the Calvin Giordano. The Calvin Giordano. Right next to it, right here. The other one. Yep.
Field inspection to the west of Crandon Boulevard and the east of the preservation area from the limits of the village of Key Biscayne to the Crandon Park Tennis Center.
Has Gene looked at this?
Gene gave us the input for the scope of the work that he thought needed to be done. I don't know if he's actually seen this.
I don't think that I've sent this
Well,
to
I
him.
sent it to him today,
Okay.
and I haven't seen my emails, but he should look at it
Okay, so the manager does, the reason it's here, I know at the special meeting you directed the manager to move forward quickly and do this. The reason it's here is it's far beyond his purchasing power.
Right.
He can spend $10,000 under your ordinance.
Right.
So
Can
any
we-
other
can we
expenditure
agree on
needs
the
to be.
money and
We
let-
can agree on the money. I spoke to Gene briefly before the meeting. He seemed to understand the scope and why things were being done, but I don't know that he had a chance to review it.
Yeah.
So let's agree on the money. But
let's agree on the
in
money.
theory,
And this scope, I think at a minimum is what Gene
I think so,
is going to
too.
want. But
Yes.
he may say, well, you should ask for some other items.
Whatever.
But my sense was-
Let's agree on the money. You
Fine.
go back and let's talk to him
Fine.
and figure it
Okay.
out, right?
Can we approve this with Gene's?
subject to
Subject
comments.
to
Yeah,
Gene's
let's do,
approval?
I think that's the right, yep.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm correct.
That's fine. I think
I
a
move
motion is in order.
to instruct the manager to approve this, to move
Second.
forward on this
Second.
With the caveat.
with the caveat that there may be comments pending from Gene, but we agree to the general scope, we agree to the amount.
The second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have one more item, if I may.
Yes, sir.
The chairs don't squeak anymore.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
I can
it's super
actually
nice.
hear you
Much
when other people are moving around.
These are new.
Okay.
He wants applause for the
I'm done.
bringing
No,
the
no.
new chairs.
These are new chairs.
This is nice, right?
Yeah.
Very fancy.
I saw something like going up, and hers is like raised and everything.
I'm done, thank you.
Next item, discussion on next step for sea level rise village comprehensive
Where are the
plan.
old chairs? Can I buy one of those?
Mayor Lindsay.
Thank you very much, council members. This again is follow-up from the different town halls and workshops that we had for sea level rise. They were actually incredibly attended by the village, by our residents. There's real interest, there's real concern. We have multiple master plans that affect our strategy for sea level rise, but they are not integrated and comprehensive. And I guess today is the meeting for master plans, and so my request is to get some consensus from council to come up with a comprehensive master plan that allows for the different layers, whether it's our building and zoning code, whether it is our stormwater evacuation, and every other component that we have for having a comprehensive sea level rise master plan.
So it's like a resiliency.
It's a
type
resiliency
master
plan, yes. So again, this would be, and I know that we have a lot pending in terms of RFQs and RFPs, but an RFP for a consultant that has this level of expertise.
Could this be part of this large master plan that we're doing? And then we would spin it off into smaller master plans or strategic plans where you have one for resiliency and it looks at those items of how that's integrated into the larger master plan.
In terms,
I don't know.
provided
I don't know if
that there's one engineering or there's one expert that has all that level of expertise, because I'd say that someone that does urban planning and may not have the kind of deep team to be able to deal with some of the engineering challenges with sea level rise. So I'm
Together.
they should work together, absolutely.
Or you hire the consultant that specializes in that.
Then find-
And then at some point, they have to meet with them to integrate them together into the urban planning.
I mean, this may be something that, again, we have Giordano. They may be the group that finds the different experts to integrate the plan.
Steve, would you think that a resiliency plan should come before an urban development plan? So then, when the urban development guys are looking at the urban planning, when they start looking at it, they already have the plan of the resiliency, and they incorporate it into what they're doing. It almost seems like that should come first.
I think that the land planning component is distinct from this sea level rise resiliency issue. It's not completely separate, but I think that good land planners will understand
those are the challenges.
The critical issues in helping plan, coming up with a master land use plan, if you will.
But land use is one thing. The other thing let's just say, for an instance, an example, a streetscape. We might want Crandon Boulevard to look a certain way in 25 years.
Yes.
Now, a resiliency will just say, we're going to have sea level rise, so you're going to have to build your buildings like this. But the urban planner is going to come and say, well, if we have to build like this, then we have to also look at it like this if you want the streetscape to look like that, right? So they would have to kind of...
But they're really, what they're doing is, you're talking about almost the implementation. Because they may say that you're going to need to elevate the roads in order so you don't have flooding. If you wait for them to do a whole report on all the things you could do to deal with, sea level rise, I think it's going to take a long time to get to this land planning program.
Okay.
I think that good land planners understand the issue of barrier islands, and we need to look for people that have that expertise. They're out there, and that's probably where we should start.
In parallel to that, we should be doing a resiliency plan?
Absolutely.
We should, yeah. It's long overdue.
Right.
So,
If I may,
yes.
We are using, and Eric made reference to it earlier,
Coastal?
AECOM. AECOM is the one that also did the resiliency plan for Miami Beach. So if you'll allow me to get you the executive summary from that, just as a...
That would be wonderful.
Just as a
If you could
resource for
circulate it to
jump off.
council,
Yes, ma'am.
just so we can take a next step. Thank you very much.
Sounds great.
But I think we need to move forward with this planning. Next item.
Request to move the budget workshop to Tuesday, June 20th, 2017. Councilmember Moss.
So that's it. I just want to see if we can move it. I'm going to be out of town the next week, and I'd really like to be here. The following week, I'll be out of the town, so I wouldn't be able to make it if it was the next Tuesday. So I'm proposing if we had it a week earlier, it would be huge, because I would love to be here for that meeting.
I think it's critical for you to be here. The one thing I would ask is, Jenny has about 5 different jobs right now. One of them is our budget director and our finance director and our planning director. And so she's losing a week. She's losing a week. I want to make sure she can do this because Conchita's not feeling well.
Yes, no problem.
And whatever we can do to help, you need help.
So
Need help.
what day are you considering moving
June
it to?
20th. Can you do it?
Oh, that's the date that you want to move it to?
Yes, June 20th.
I think it was on 27th before, and I want to move it a little earlier.
Okay.
You're not there?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just going to have Chad sit in with you that night, but that's okay. You should go forward.
it'll be 2
We'll
weeks-
have less
2 weeks in a
involvement
row.
legally. This is really a workshop for the council.
This is a workshop.
Right.
So we're 2 weeks in a row.
Yes.
Back-to-back meeting.
June 20th.
But then you have a longer summer vacation. 1 extra week. Okay.
It was for the
Should we call it
27th.
to see if everybody's okay?
I'll take it as a consensus. That's
Okay,
fine.
consensus?
It's fine. Everybody's
We're all
okay?
good? Moving
All
on?
all those in favor?
Aye.
What is it, Thursday?
It is Tuesday, the
20th.
20th.
Tuesday? the 20th.
Instead of what date?
The 27th.
27th,
Okay,
a
thank
week
you.
earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it as a consensus.
That far ahead, so I hope I'm not going anywhere. Let me tell you that.
Okay.
This is, why don't you take a vote? Do you need a vote?
I need a motion and then a second
A
and then a vote.
motion, I move to
I second.
move our budget workshop from June 27th to June 20th at 7 PM.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. Motion carries. Next item is the report on progress with interactive lights. Councilmember De La Cruz.
Yeah, I am extremely disappointed that we haven't been able to bring you a finished contract on this. And I think that Steve will agree. All I can tell you is that I think that we finally have a contract back to them that says what we needed to say. They were using a boilerplate contract that didn't make any sense. And Steve was finally able to speak with Ira and Darlene and straighten that out, because I can tell you this much: Alice Bravo has been always on top of it and in agreement with our position from the very beginning. So it's not from the top; it's getting her underlings to do what they need to do. And if this doesn't work out with the form that you're finishing today, then we're going to have another conference call and work it out. But the bottom line is, definitely very frustrated. I can't imagine how it could possibly take this long to get a contract done. If I did this in my regular life, I wouldn't have any clients. So that's where we're at. We
got to get it done.
Thank you for that, Dave. Thank you for working on that.
Next, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Next item, finding alternative solutions to our beach renourishment plan. Councilmember De La Cruz.
Yeah, I think a lot of people here are working on this separately, and we probably, I've been wanting to touch upon something like this, and this particular issue is probably the best one, that we should suggest that one person carry the torch on certain items like this, for instance, because if not, then 3 or 4 different people are working on different things, and since we have the sunshine issues, we don't know what anybody's doing. So if one person happens to be the point person on one particular subject, then we can always have a sunshine meeting with that one person if we happen to have input for that thing. And then that person can gather all the different inputs from everybody else. Because I know that Brett has been working on this particular issue and has spoken with some people that might be helpful to us. And I know Gary has been working on this issue. And so the idea is to all of us together go forward with this because obviously it's the best interest of the village of Key Biscayne that we all have at heart. And the most important thing that I wanted to get across with this item is that we can't continue. I don't want to continue to throw money at the ocean. We need to find a different way of doing things. Okay, it can't be that we just truck in sand and replenish sand that gets taken away. There are different ways of doing things, and I think that I know Brett has done some inroads on that, and I think Gary has also, and we need to put together all of our ideas and go with it.
Well, I'll have a proposal probably within a week, maybe 10 days, that we can actually look at, and it's a team that will be actually helping lead the way to get this done. We don't have any commitments, but it's going to be a proposal. We'll see who the players are. We'll see what their plan is, and then we can make a decision as to whether or not we want to go that route. I think that from what I've learned, and I've spent a lot of time on this, talking to a lot of different people, the connections and the political clout at all 3 levels are extraordinarily important in getting this done. Finding a engineer, a consultant that can develop our plan, that has a very, very strong track record of success with the 3 agencies is extremely important to the plan. And the proposal we'll be getting are going to contain all of this. So I think we'll see what it looks like. But
Absolutely.
I'm encouraged that I think we might have a path to getting a major project done in a reasonable time frame.
Good. And Gary, you really, illustrated and raised the fact that there is now is the optimal time to get some things that have been very difficult done. You have really kind of picked up the baton and done all sorts of research and really gotten informed to what our next steps are. Now, we, on a state level, spoke to the director of DEP. She gave us a roadmap of what she needed and what the best course of action. It's exactly what you were doing. I mean, we need to do things on both the federal and the state level, but it was exactly what you were doing, and we need to move forward. So
the leader of this team, by the way, is her predecessor.
Right. So
she has rather good contacts with all three agencies, and especially DEP.
To echo, what Myra said, we did have this wonderful meeting, and Brett's talking, Gary's talking. Do you feel, Gary, that once we get this proposal, that I understand Luis's concerns of not wanting all of us sort of running around like chickens with our heads cut off, having different conversations or the same conversations with different people? Or do you feel confident that when we get this proposal, if we enter into a contract with this person, that it's sufficient to have them sort of being the head and having the conversations with each of us rather than one of us taking point?
I think that's definitely a better way to do it. Yeah. And I think when we see who the people are on this team that's being assembled and what their plan is and what their proposal is, it'll be a lot easier to make that decision. But there's so many factors here, and we've all seen how we can get so bogged down in the politics, state, local, state, and federal, and they don't talk to each other. And there are other forces at play at the same time. And then there's federal funding and state funding that we have to try to procure if we can get the plan approved and so on. And it all has to fit together. And there are people around that are very well experienced and very well connected in all these different segments. And if we do, and you're right, Luis, if we go about this in a piecemeal fashion, we're going to sort of bump into not each other, but bump into these opposing forces. So,
but I think the meetings, I feel that we've been communicating effectively to work together in concert. Everything has dovetailed. It's interesting. And Brett, your area was finding solutions for, barriers and berms and what have you, and what engineering solutions there are to really slow down the erosion. And that's, that dovetailed beautifully with then the government cut and the federal projects and finding solutions, because the U.S. Army Corps has caused this, and having that be part of yet another master plan and permit project. And we ended up just interfacing with the state, and they told us what they needed from the feds in order to move forward. And in addition to that, what we needed to do very short term just to get, through the next couple of years. So it's all, this is your baby. I think, I think we've actually shown some great teamwork.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think by nature of multiple conversations going on, we've managed to just sort of happen upon some really interesting information that we maybe weren't even seeking at that, in that conversation.
Well, it's all going to be very valuable to assemble our final plan, and I don't know if it's my baby. I know I've been working on this for a long time, and I've learned a lot of things that we shouldn't be doing and a lot of things that are going to be false starts, and I think we've finally come across a plan with the right people that might be able to get what we need done for us expeditiously. So hopefully that's going to be the case, and we'll see once we get this plan in writing. We'll review it, maybe hopefully by our May 9th. Well, is this we don't have to do this in executive session, do we? Review a plan like this, or do we?
No. Well, no. You mean a plan in terms of a proposal?
Well, a proposal as to the people we want to
a team of
be on the
experts,
team.
lobbyists, engineers, coastal engineers.
We can't do that in a sunshine law.
No, you can't.
We cannot do an executive
Excuse me,
no,
can
no.
I make a motion to extend our meeting till 11:15?
11:15?
That's way too long.
11:05?
11:05.
Decisions
Second.
on
Okay.
whether to hire
Aye.
this team or not will be made in the sunshine. If each one of you want to meet with members of the team in advance so that you could discuss their proposal with them, you could do that. The only thing that I have to raise, which we'll look at when we see the proposal, is what the engineering firm is actually doing, okay? Because in order to hire engineers, as you know, in the state of Florida, you got to go through a whole solicitation process, and they may be the ones that propose and you select, but you can't just hire them. So we need to look at the proposal. I would suggest that it may be that those engineers are working for somebody else on the team, but we can
Okay,
talk about that.
okay.
Why
We've
does
done
it
that
have to
before.
be outside the sunshine? I just didn't understand that part.
You can't have an executive session about just anything.
The only things you can have a closed-door session on are labor and litigation.
Yeah, so you're
That's it.
saying, but why does these negotiations have to be private?
It's actually not a negotiation. What I thought we would do, if it's okay with everybody, is as soon as I get this proposal, I'll circulate it to the manager, to Steve, and hopefully we can get it circulated by Jen to everyone on the council. We'll all see what it is, and then when we come to the meeting, assuming we get it in time to discuss it on May 9th, we can talk about it.
Fair
Decide
enough.
how we
The
wanna
important
move
thing is that
forward.
you take the lead on it and that you develop it to the point that we then get something that makes sense. That's the way I feel. Okay?
I think that
That's the way I feel about
he
that.
may
That's
be
the
there.
way I feel about the undergrounding. That's the way I feel about a lot of different things that require a lead, a person, because if not, the sunshine issues just tear you
Well, I
apart.
think he's been doing that.
He's been doing that, but there's also, policy is done collectively, and that's a challenge,
But
too.
we'll always do that collectively, and you are always our leader. So when it
Thank you,
comes
Louis.
to when it
Thank
comes
you.
when it comes
Is
time
it 5 minutes? That's so nice of you.
when it comes time to stand up and have the photo op, it's all yours, and none of us want it.
Maybe one day it'll be your turn, Luis.
No, it's all yours.
Okay, can we move on from this?
Next item, discussion on short-term house rentals should be banned. Mayor Lindsay.
No, by the way. I'm not really sure what happened to that item, but that was not the item.
Discussion should be banned?
No, it was the discussion should never be, no discussion should ever be banned. I can't tell you how hard I laughed when I read that. But the idea was discussion on short-term rental enforcement and the policies we have in place, and also what was going on at the state level, which I believe was just done away with, so it's not going to, the preemption is not going to move forward.
Oh, that's great.
But we had, when this came up again, I got a couple calls from residents asking, getting emails about it. I think you all probably got about Airbnb and what have we done, and this better not happen. And so I just wanted to have this discussion amongst us and remind our residents that we do have an ordinance. We were preempted. We acted for short-term rentals. And we have policies in place, and we also, a couple of months ago, asked for enforcement because there were a lot of violations, and yes.
I heard from residents sort of from the other side who were feeling very confused about exactly what the policies were and what they could and couldn't do and how to operate, sort of on the up and up. And so I discussed it with Chief Lang, I've discussed it with the manager, and the idea is sort of to try to put something together to make this whole process a little more user-friendly.
Perfect.
And I don't know if anyone else has more that they want to talk about that maybe we could do next time, but that was what I heard.
To have
about.
rules, guidelines, and clear so that people know what they can do. And, we have a bed and breakfast ordinance that allows for certain uses. So when this was done, there's been historically in the village lots of thought and consideration for all the different options and neighbors and what have you. We just have tried to do what fits our community the best. but it's always good to know what the rules are so you don't break them.
Well, and also just to feel safe in what you're doing with your home, right? To not feel that you're violating something or that you're going to be in some sort of trouble or.
Terrific, that's a great idea.
It's got to be at least 15 days.
I think, should we move to adjourn and continue the rest of the discussions for the next meeting?
Second.
You guys, thank you so much. That was a very productive meeting. Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.
Everybody gets back.